Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. This is Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1644 of the War News stream. And tonight we have extremely big news, and it could be the most consequential news of the year that's going down in the last 24 hours. Right now, we're hearing that U.S. officials are warning Putin against an imminent NATO attack, and today the CIA director even traveled all the way to Moscow to deliver a mysterious message, and that's got people on edge, to say the least. Also, Moscow was under a huge attack by drones about 2 hours ago, and also a brand new attack may be underway right now, and also major explosions have erupted at Crimean military ports, amongst many other warehouses in mainland Russia, and we have a ton of news tonight, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 48 hours in the news from around the world, as we have been able to hear significant news, particularly from Eastern Europe today and inside the Russian Federation, but also from the Middle East as well, and also East Asia. As over the course of the past 24 hours, the United States CIA Director Ratcliffe has flown on a C-17 with an entourage from the Central Intelligence Agency to Moscow to deliver a message to the Russian government. It is unknown at this moment whether he met directly with Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, but it is understood that he did speak to top-level Russian officials, either of the Ministry of Defense or of the Ministry of the Interior or of the Russian Central Committee as well, or directly to Vladimir Putin. From what we understand, a warning was given by the United States of America, according to intelligence that may have been gathered by reconnaissance aircraft that were flying around the area of the Kaliningrad Oblast, a part of the Leningrad military district, showing that the Russian Federation appears to be preparing for some form of escalatory action against NATO. And we believe that the director most likely warned the Russian Federation that further escalations or provocations against NATO will not be met kindly, or that there may be sterner responses made by NATO allies, possibly including the United States, within the immediate future. Whatever was transpiring in this meeting, it only lasted a couple of minutes before the delegation then left Moscow and flew directly back out of Moscow and right back into NATO. We have been able to see that afterwards, the president of the Russian Federation has issued 3 secret imperative presidential decrees, which were signed and ordered by the President Vladimir Putin quite literally within just the next 2 hours after the meeting ended. It is unknown what is inside of these presidential decrees, but the decision-making moment and signing of them at the very moment, just hours after the meeting, is suggesting that you most likely have some sort of direct correlation to the situation pertaining to the CIA director's meeting. Not long afterwards, we were able to hear that public statements were made once again by the Russian Federation's government that they are still moving towards preparations for full mobilization and a transition to a wartime economy in the Russian Federation, and we're already hearing that some form of mobilization is now underway in at least 17 oblasts of the over 100 oblasts within the Russian Federation. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces have continued their attacks against the Russians in strong form over the day, with another several hundred drone attack vector being seen heading towards the Moscow area at this time as we're on air. We've also seen that oil refineries have been hit once again throughout the entirety of the Russian Federation, including the refinery at Afipsky and also the one at Kostovo, and we've also been able to confirm that a Wildberries facility inside of Tambov has also been hit again and heavily damaged. It appears that some form of sabotage of a major variety has occurred within the Amur region, as a major chemical plant, the largest one in the Russian Federation, has suffered a violent and spontaneous explosion over this day, which appears to have destroyed most of the critical manufacturing processes at the plant. We've also been able to hear as well, outside of this news, the Russian fuel shortage has continued, and NATO countries are still preparing at this moment for possible provocations by the Russian Federation. Lithuania has now deployed NASAM air defense missile systems around their capital of Vilnius, and we have also seen that the Royal Air Force has conducted an RC-135 Rivet joint flight of their own along the southern Kaliningrad border. We've also seen that the United States delegation and officials also made a visit to NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium today to apparently be able to prepare further defenses and also defensive frameworks in the event of a possible provocation by the Russian Federation, which is expected by this fall. Investigators also found another drone laden with Semtex explosives near to the Leipzig International Airport, which is only discovered just today, and we have seen that the Romanians have once again put out another RO alert due to another threat of a Russian drone possibly making an incursion into NATO airspace and Romanian airspace as a result. The Romanian Ministry of Defense and the Minister of Defense has called that the Romanians cannot become numb to these sorts of situations and cannot allow for Russian airspace violations to continue, and must make some form of concerted or forward proactive actions to be able to stop these sorts of incursions from continuing to threaten the safety and the health of Romanian citizenry and NATO at large. A border crossing was also attacked today by the Russian Federation Armed Forces directly along the Moldovan-Ukrainian border on the Ukrainian side, causing significant damage and destruction to one of those facilities. We have also seen that the Ukrainian Armed Forces have inflicted significant losses onto the Russian Federation today and have stopped generally all advances over the front line over the course of the past 48 hours. We have also seen that within the Middle East, the United States of America is continuing its blockade line of the Gulf of Oman, which is finally resulting in some form of damage to the Iranian economy, as fuel shortages are now being seen in video and picture evidence in several major Iranian cities, including Tehran, Mashhad, and Tabriz, just to name a few. We have also heard that the United States Central Intelligence Agency and military intelligence may have possibly uncovered another storage site, once again in the Natanz nuclear uranium enrichment plant, that may be housing some form of enriched uranium, possibly weapons-grade uranium, at this point right now. We have also been able to see that the Islamic Republic of Iran has continued to its stance on the Strait of Hormuz, stating that they will not be allowing vessels to pass through with the economic sanctions that have been put in place. However, Russian media, for however credible they may be, has stated that the Strait of Hormuz has magically been reopened, and the President of the United States has claimed that all of the mines in the minefield in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz have also been completely demined as well, although, unfortunately, we don't really have any evidence to be able to show of that. We've also been able to hear that within the northern Red Sea, a UK MTO report came out today, and the Israelis have continued their bombardments inside of southern Lebanon near the Al-Tahrir Heights. We have also gotten news out of South Korea that the United States of America is continuing to degrade and mitigate its presence in the U.S. 8th Army inside of South Korea and the involvement in joint military exercises and war games conducted in conjunction with the Republic of Korea's armed forces in South Korea. We have quite a lot of news to cover over the course of this day, and we are going to be making sure to cover each and every single bit of it, starting with our largest stories first, and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the night over the course of these these past 48 hours. And I've got to tell you, folks, that today we have a humongous amount of news and somewhat serious news, to say the least. So we're going to be making sure to get into that starting at the very beginning of our new show. So moving us on and immediately into our largest story of the day, we were able to confirm that the CIA's Director Ratcliffe, has made a flight along with his envoy from Riga, Latvia into Moscow in the Russian Federation. The C-17 was reported to have made the flight rapidly from Riga, Latvia into Moscow on a largely direct flight path to the Vyknovo International Airport, landing at the airport, which we were actually able to see on clip from a Russian citizen that filmed the landing near Vyknovo, if I can pronounce that correctly, right here. This actually shows the C-17 on its...
I don't think we can show that whole video, by the way.
Well, to show just a brief part of it, we can actually see the C-17 with its gear deployed and its flaps extended here on final approach at the runway at the Vyknovo International Airport. Not long after landing, the delegation then made it directly from the Vyknovo International Airport down Highway E101 into the central area of Moscow, heading straight to the Kremlin, and then conducting a meeting with the Russian Federation's government at that time. We were able to see that at this moment, there was information showing that the CIA director, according to the Wall Street Journal, arrived in Moscow after the U.S. gathered intelligence indicating mobilization preparations and plans to test NATO's resolve. Former Deputy Director of the U.S. National Intelligence Beth Sonner told the publication that Ratcliffe may have met with Putin directly to deliver a warning along the lines of, "We know what you're going to do, and you better not do it," largely indicating that the United States of America may be involved in hostilities against the Russian Federation if they conduct a military action against the NATO alliance. We have also been able to hear that right after this meeting, the delegation then left only minutes after arriving at the Kremlin, drove back down the E101 highway, boarded the C-17 at Vyknovo, and then departed instantly, heading right back to Riga, which once again we were able to see on this flight radar information here via ADS-B transponder, showing that the C-17 did immediately depart and returned right back to Riga, where the entire venture had started for the CIA director. Only the next 2 hours later, we had already heard that the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, had signed 3 secret presidential decrees after a visit of the CIA director. These are publicly listed, and while the secret decrees are publicly listed as decrees that have been signed, the actual details in which the decrees were made on are not shown. And you can actually see right here that there were about 6 presidential decrees that were signed today by President Putin, and numbers 605 to 607 are missing from the register, which is openly showing that the decrees were signed by the President of the Russian Federation because they are written and signed in sequential order. They never skip numbers in this process. At the start of the year, I believe they start with decree number 1 every single year, and then they move their way on up into the hundreds like we're seeing right now, meaning that somewhere in the process today, 3 presidential decrees were signed that are not publicly shown what they are or what in the hell they're about, and they were not really shown on any public record, rather than the fact that they are missing between number 604 and 608 signed today.
And also, it's really interesting, too, that these 3 secret orders that Putin issued today, it happened literally right as Ratcliffe left Russia. Right as he flew out, these orders got issued. So whatever was stated or said between those two, or if they even directly met, it could have just been Ratcliffe meeting some top of Russian officials, possibly. Whatever was said, I believe, prompted those 3 secret orders to go out. So it's very interesting. We don't even have a clue what they are. Like, we don't even have an idea of what those orders could be. But secret orders like that are a little unusual, to say the least. I can't remember the last time I've ever seen something like that.
We haven't seen it a lot. Even in the war in Ukraine, we have not seen a lot of secret presidential decrees of the Russian Federation anytime recently. At least I don't think we've seen one over the course of at least the past year in my memory. So this is something that is exceptionally rare. And the fact that there were 3 of them signed in sequence, number 605, 6, and 7, that is quite concerning and showing that whatever was done may have been in direct involvement with the meeting that was just held with the CIA director. Now, I see some people in the chat asking, well, why in the world would the CIA director fly all the way to Moscow and have an in-person meeting with the Russian government, possibly Putin, for really no reason, considering that the meeting only lasted for minutes and then they flew right back out? Why not do that via Zoom? Well, the reason is that an in-person meeting usually has a lot more gravity to it and also shows that the situation is being taken quite seriously. That's generally the reason why someone will be flown in directly and then drive all the way to the Kremlin to be able to deliver a very small statement, most likely with some intelligence backing up their claim, and then to give a brief warning to the Russian government and then leave. That's generally the reason why we believe that the meeting was conducted in person. They wouldn't really have the same sort of gravity to it if it was done through normal de-escalation channels, where someone just called up the Russian MOD and said, "Oh, hey, by the way, we know y'all are going to war with NATO soon. Please don't do that." Click. That wouldn't really come off with the same sort of gravity as the U.S. actually sending the CIA director to show up with the actual intelligence in hand, we're assuming, to show them, look, we know what y'all are doing. This is a clear military buildup. This is not going to go well for y'all. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we'll see y'all around. That has a lot more of an impact from what we understand. In the meantime, the Russian Federation's presidential decrees, which generally were not known entirely what was inside of them, do not really hide a lot of what the Russians are doing right now, as we were able to hear that currently, according to a Russian military blogger publication today, or more so a Russian state media publication today, the State Duma announced a completion date for the SVO, and according to Deputy Sobolev of the State Duma, Russia must complete the Second World War with absolute victory by 2030. They're claiming that this is the Second World War against NATO and whatnot, so the wordage there is largely political inside of Russia. They don't call the Second World War the Second World War. They call it the Great Patriotic War, but that's beyond the point. Going on to add to the rest of the statement, they then added that Russia must complete the Central Military District with a victory by 2030 to be ready to repel NATO aggression. State Duma Defense Committee member, Lieutenant General, and former commander of the 58th Army, Viktor Sobolev, told Gazeta.ru. And a direct quote.
Oh, wait a minute. They're saying now that they need victory, absolute victory by 2030 for the SVO, the Special Military Operation. That's a little bit more of a time frame right there than they originally said. We have to bring this up occasionally. They said 3 days. That's what they said. 3 days, and they'll be finished with it. Now it's going to go in like 7 or 8 years. That's what they're saying. It'll be like an absolute victory by 2030. It's like the Russian economy can't even survive for that many more years. Like, it's just not possible.
Yeah, it's not really possible for them to survive 8 years. I mean, they're hardly surviving on into I believe it will be the 5th year next year. We're in the 4th year right now. So it's a little bit impossible to say that they're going to survive for about another 4 years beyond this, because they've hardly even made it into the 5th, and they're already starting to fall to tatters right now. And that's the reason why we're concerned, and that's also why the United States intelligence apparatus are concerned as well. They look to be in dire straits right now. There isn't really a 2030 that can come around. It looks like they're in such dire straits, they might try and start a provocation against NATO within the course of the latter part of this year, or at least within next year. We've also been able to hear a direct quote, apparently, from Viktor Sobolev, or a parliamentarian, apparently, that added the following: "The fascist regime, i.e. the Ukrainians, according to the Russians, must be dealt with before Poland and other NATO countries are ready for war with Russia. The Poles, Germans, French, British, Belgian, Norwegian, Finnish, and Swedish all want to fight Russia and inflict a strategic defeat on it. Of course, there's an informational component here, primarily for their own peoples, whom they are preparing for war, but there are also serious preparations for war with Russia. We must, by that time, by 2030, fully complete the special military operation in Ukraine. Completed, as the president said, with a victory for our armed forces and absolute victory for the nation," according to this parliamentarian that spoke from the State Duma today. This is also the direct Russian article, or the article in Russian itself, to show you that this is actually from Russian state media, translated into English, which is what we just read off on air. And this was the General Sobolev, who is now in the Russian State Duma, who largely moved this forward today to say that they must complete the war in Ukraine by 2030, hell or high water, to be able to prepare for a conflict with NATO. The problem with this timetable, though, folks, is that this timetable is very much bloated and extended well on into the future than what we believe the Russians are capable of doing. Now, the Russian Federation is not going to be surviving for only the next few weeks and then collapse. The Russian Federation will most likely survive into the next year, from what we understand. But economically and materially, there's not a lot left for the Russian Federation to be able to work with. They do not have, for one, a large amount of manpower to be able to work with in reserve anymore, and that's why they're trying to work at this moment on full mobilization within the country to be able to try and get enough manpower to either finish the war in Ukraine or to start an escalation against NATO to try and get major diplomatic concessions that then might make the war in Ukraine winnable. The other thing is that the fuel situation in Russia is so desperate, their economy will most likely collapse within the next year to a year and a half from this point, from what we're telling. And also on top of that, we already know that apparently whatever the CIA director has in intelligence is showing that the Russian Federation is quite truly getting ready for war with NATO right now. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a flight and a warning made in Moscow today by the CIA director. But this is leading quite a many of people in the chat right now to talk about the CIA visit to Moscow today by the director of the CIA and what this was really about. And Matthew, what are people thinking about it? And what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So I will say that what happened today is extremely consequential. We can't understate that. It's very, very consequential what happened today because note that the U.S. government could have sent the special envoys. They could have sent Witkoff and Kushner to Moscow, but notice they didn't do that this time. That's a notable change right there. They sent the CIA director himself to Moscow. Now, remember the last time that happened, I think it was Bill Burns when he was the director. He also went to Moscow to warn Putin not to invade Ukraine. And then 2 weeks later, Putin went and invaded Ukraine, and now we're several years down the road from that. So when a CIA director makes a personal visit to a capital like Moscow, it is something extremely serious. It's nothing light whatsoever. So now we're hearing the reports that apparently he went there to warn Moscow against an imminent NATO attack that they have intelligence on from the looks of it. Some people did speculate earlier today that maybe they were warning them about Iran, possibly, but I'm of the belief that's about the situation with NATO. That's what I think. But let's see what the audience thinks. 45% said Russia is probably mobilizing in Kaliningrad, and that's why the CIA director went today. While 24% said Putin is mobilizing homeland forces, and that's catching NATO's attention, and that's why he went. And 21% said it's because Russia's increasing hybrid warfare in Europe. And I would say this. There's a very strong correlation here between these two events. We just saw Kaliningrad get encircled by NATO aircraft, specifically intelligence reconnaissance aircraft, literally just 1 to 2 days ago, and it happened for several days in a row. That's now winding down, and all of a sudden, after it wound down and they got the photographs or whatever signals intelligence they needed, now all of a sudden the CIA director flew to Moscow and apparently presented some evidence to Putin and gave him a warning, apparently. So I'm of the belief that something is happening in Kaliningrad. I think there's a mobilization or some type of troop movement happening in Kaliningrad that has NATO on edge. And I think that's why the CIA director made a personal visit to Moscow. That's why I think personally. So I'm actually with the 45%. I think that's the main reason. And of course, there is some speculation in that. Of course, we don't know the exact details of what was said behind the scenes, but I think the details seem to add up to correlate. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say that, in my opinion, I think that the Russians are working on some form of not necessarily a mobilization, but they're definitely ramping up deployments along the NATO border in Kaliningrad and also along the Baltic states and Finland. We already know this, actually, folks, because while it's not been talked about in such an open and enough of a way or in a high density way for us to see the story forming in real time, over the course of this whole year, we've largely been covering that here on the channel bit by bit with each news stream. Remember, folks, when the satellite data from the United States that was published publicly was showing that the Russian Federation was building new forward operating bases near the Finnish border that could house up to 110,000 Russian troops along the whole border with Finland, most of them being focused around the southern border of Finland where most of the fighting would take place in a hypothetical conflict? And do y'all remember when the Russian National Guard flights were conducted to Kaliningrad just last week and in the months before that, most likely ferrying top Russian officials to Kaliningrad to make sure that the Kaliningrad Oblast is on the same page as the rest of the Leningrad military district? And do y'all remember that the Russian Federation is trying right now to heavily bolster its numbers through volunteers, and they're already working on full mobilization at this point right now to start conscripting mass numbers of men into the armed forces in Russia to be able to build up their armed forces to a significant degree. And that's not to include all of the different hybrid attacks, drone incursions, cruise missile attacks, and other incidents that have happened along the eastern border of NATO and in Germany at this point just over the past 2 months. All of that is clearly showing us that the Russian Federation is working on mobilization and also a conflict or confrontation with NATO, not with Ukraine. And the reason why they're willing to do that, folks, is because materially they are completely spent. The economy is in the tubes and it is rapidly diminishing. We'll show you all here in a minute what the Russian stock market looked like, but it is rapidly diminishing and deteriorating. They're running out of men, they're running out of money, they're running out of ammo, they're running out of fuel, they're running out of food, they're running out of everything. I mean, I could go on and on with a list. They're running out of quite literally everything. And when a country is in a position like that, they usually decide to escalate because they're either going going to go out quietly or they're going to go out with a bang. And if they go out with a bang, they might just be able to deliver an uppercut to their adversary, a lucky one, that will end up possibly seeing that they somehow survive the entire confrontation. For example, the Empire of Japan, after being embargoed by the United States, which was the Empire of Japan's main oil supplier before their attack on Pearl Harbor, then went into desperate straits because of the lack of oil and also the economic downturn that they were seeing, and then attacked Pearl Harbor and invaded the U.S. territory of the Philippines and Guam. The Germans in World War II, after failing at the Battle of Britain and seeing that that the war was going on far longer than they originally anticipated, even by 1941, decided to invade their main supporter, the Soviet Union, because they needed the supplies and raw materials of the Soviet Union, and they believed that they were weak enough that they would back down and give up. That's the same thing that the Japanese thought as well about the United States, is that if they attacked the United States would be so weak that we would actually just negotiate our way out of the conflict entirely and basically give them whatever they want, which was not the case in either one of those instances. That is what the Russians are probably believing about us right now here in NATO. They are believing that the leadership of NATO states are weak, that they might be willing to compromise and negotiate, and also they're in dire straits in every single way. That is the perfect cocktail that we saw in the Second World War. They got the Germans to invade the Soviet Union and the Japanese to attack the United States and draw us into the conflict. So it is a exact historical parallel to what we saw back then, and the risk here is quite high. If we continue to put a weak front forward and make it look like NATO would be willing to back off or cower down to the Russians if they start a conflict, they will start a conflict with NATO. Make no mistake, bar none, they will go to conflict with NATO. And that's what apparently is the big concern at the moment right now. And another thing to add, folks, that NATO military exercise that we've been tracking over days, where we have seen humongous numbers of AWACS aircraft up and airborne, is still ongoing. The British flew an RC-135W rivet joint today along the southern Kaliningrad border, and also, one thing that was not included here, along the entirety of the eastern border of NATO in the Leningrad military district, which is showing that the British are also trying to gather more intelligence on what exactly the Russians are doing. We don't see these kind of mass...
There's no way that's a military exercise, by the way. Like I'm calling BS on that. That's a big thing to call BS on. But I'm telling you, like this rings to me as like a practical operation they're conducting for an intentional reason behind it. This does not seem like a military exercise. Like it does not look like one to me.
It doesn't look like one to me either. And think about it. It's like, why in the world would we conduct a military exercise where we have AWACS and reconnaissance aircraft up in the air and almost the same number as the multi-role aircraft and aerial tankers that are involved in the exercise? And they're all flying as close as they can to the Russian borders. That clearly is reconnaissance gathering. I mean, there's no other way to look at that. We're conducting reconnaissance on them, and apparently something has tipped us off to where we're trying to conduct more reconnaissance than we ever have over the past 3.5 years. It's almost on to 4 now. And also, another thing that I want to add, folks, another important thing, and this was done in 2024, look at this map of Russian military districts. And this seems like a clerical or an administrative thing, but this is very important because usually whenever a military creates districts like these or areas of responsibility like we do in the United States at a global level, they do these to be able to control and contain certain sorts of developments or hypothetical situations into a specialized command structure. And a while ago, this entire thing, the Moscow Military District and the Leningrad Military District, used to be the Western Military District. It was not an individual military district like the Leningrad one is now. In 2024, the Putin government created the Leningrad Military District and brought it back out of the grave to be able to operate independently of the Western Military District. Now, the reason why they did that is because if you look at the border that the Leningrad Military District shares with any outside country, you'll notice a certain trend. Norway, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania and Poland all border the Leningrad Military District. The Moscow Military District doesn't, the Southern Military District doesn't, and none of the other military districts in Russia do. This military district here in Leningrad was created with the sole responsibility of preparing for a conflict with NATO. That's their entire purpose. There is no other reason that this military district was founded and created rather than to be able to prepare for a hypothetical conflict with NATO. And considering that the Kaliningrad military oblast is a part of it, or the Kaliningrad Oblast is a part of the Leningrad MD, that only adds proof to the fire that this is, without a shadow of a doubt, a preparation for a conflict with NATO,
Oh
even at the
yeah.
administrative level.
And if you really think about it, if you really think about where Putin's mindset is right now, I mean, what does he really have to lose at this point? I mean, Russia's going to lose this war. They're not going to win the Ukraine war. That's becoming very obvious at this point. It's very likely that the Russian economy is going to completely collapse and implode in on itself before the war even has a chance to sort itself out. So that's on the horizon. So that means the end of the Putin regime if the economy goes under. Because I mean, he's not going to stay in power if the whole country is in shambles and in pieces and tatters. He's not going to stay in power. So you got to look at it from his perspective. I mean, he's thinking, well, hell, I might as well throw a Hail Mary, like to make a football reference there, sort of out of character for me. But he might as well throw a Hail Mary. That's what he's thinking because he's going to be out anyway, and he really doesn't care about the people. He doesn't care what the fallout is. He's just thinking, let me try to do something crazy and see if that gets NATO to back off. Which would be typically something that is in the USSR or the Russian playbook, the escalate to de-escalate strategy. That is something they've employed several times before in the past, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think this time, I don't think it's going to work this time. I think he's going to end up causing a situation that's way worse than what Ukraine turned into, a much larger quagmire, if he actually goes for it. Me personally, I hate to say it, but I think he's already made his mind up. I think he made his mind up probably a month ago, at least, I would predict.
Sadly, I think that's the case as well. I think this intelligence meeting, or more so meeting by the CIA director today, was more just to try and do our legwork to say, well, we tried to stop him, but I don't really think this is avoidable at this point. And there's also been further developments in NATO today that is clearly showing that that is still the case. In Lithuania, near the capital of Vilnius, NASAM's air defense systems have been deployed. This is actually a picture of one of those systems, and apparently this was done amid the increasing number of drone incursions in the airspace of eastern NATO countries. This is showing that at least at this level, the Lithuanians are expecting that one of the likely provocation actions the Russians may conduct is a drone attack against Vilnius, and that's why they're now deploying NASAM systems around the perimeter of their capital city, so if the Russians conduct such an escalation, they will hopefully be able to shoot the drones down before they cause any damage. This is already the second NASAM's battery that's in Lithuania, with the third one expected to arrive in 2028. The last time a drone entered Lithuanian territory was in May. Meanwhile, a similar incident was recorded in Latvia last week, where NATO Air Forces actually engaged and shot down the drone over the area of the city of Resigne in the central area of the eastern border of Lithuania. We've also been able to hear that in Germany, investigators have found another concerning development in the Leipzig attack story. Another drone was actually found today by police and investigators near the Leipzig airport, which contained another 50 grams of hexane, a powerful chemical warfare agent. Another drone, according to investigators, may have collided with a DHL cargo plane that same night, and damage was later found on the tail of the Antonov 24, actually seen here in the picture, which was apparently the target of the attack by the drone. We also were able to hear a little bit more information from NATO today, as we were able to hear that apparently the Pentagon policy chief Elbridge Colby is traveling to Europe for consultations with U.S., European, and Africa commands, followed by briefings at SHAPE and NATO headquarters in Brussels to advance the United States NATO 3.0 agenda. All of this coming in mind, folks, on the same day that the directors' meeting in Moscow was conducted. And a lot of people are wondering what is going to be going on as a result of this. Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so another piece of the puzzle too. Lithuania now deploying a NASAM's air defense system around their capital. Actually, I believe what was it again? It was Vilnius, I believe it was. They deployed it
Yes.
around. Yeah, so that's coming right after the NATO intel flights are wrapping up to a certain degree. They're still doing a few of them, but they're largely winding down to a certain degree. So now we're seeing Lithuania deploy air defense systems, which is literally right there around the same area that the NATO intel flights are taking place, right there on the border. So what is coming next? It looks like 56% of the audience said Russia will attack the Baltics. That must be what they're up to. While 20% said nothing will happen, and it's probably just fear-mongering. And 16% said Putin is preparing small raids into the Baltic states, or maybe even a surrounding country of a NATO member. And I would say that I think Lithuania detects that something's about to happen. That's why they've deployed that NASAMS a little bit early. I think that's why they've done that. But of course, one NASAM, even two NASAM systems, that's not enough to protect Lithuania as a whole, I don't think. I mean, that could be overwhelmed pretty easily. So hopefully, Lithuania has other means to defend themselves. But I want to note something that's a big problem right now, by the way. It's a problem that Ukraine's also experiencing as well due to the Iran situation depleting all of our air defense interceptors, specifically the Patriot Pack 2s and 3s. There is not a big supply of those right now. So if Russia goes to attack the Baltics and they need Patriot interceptors to try to shoot down incoming Russian projectiles, they're going to be in the exact same situation that Ukraine's in right now, not really having hardly any interceptors at all to defend themselves. And Putin might know that, and he might decide to exploit that weakness, and that might also push him to invade or attack even earlier than he would have previously due to the Iran shortage of the interceptors. So I'm going to say this. I'm not really ready to say that Russia is going to attack the Baltics in full, like a direct invasion, but I think that small raids or some type of hybrid warfare might be in the works against those countries in a much larger sense, because we're already seeing a pretty minor version of that right now. But I think that they're probably going to be ramping that up significantly very soon. So I'm actually with the 16%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that I'm generally with the 16% as well. Actually, I'm kind of like divided in between the 56% and the 16%. I'm not entirely sure whether they would try and conduct a large scale attack against the Baltics or whether it be small raids. But the fact that they're putting NASAMs out would generally suggest small raids. Because if it's with drone attacks only that these escalations are conducted with, then we could get a pretty safe assumption at that point that they're probably only going to be conducting small scale raids with drone attacks instead of large scale combined arms attacks against the Baltic states, at least initially. And the original intent of this might be to try and weaken the NATO alliance or at least numb them to the Russian provocations that are happening on the daily, so that when an actual major attack happens on the Baltics, they're largely taken by surprise because they've gotten used to a high amount of activity, threats, and provocations being conducted along the NATO border that have been left unresponded up until that point. So I would say that probably the deployment of the NASAMs has a lot more to do with small-scale provocations and raids, because NASAMs do not have a long range. NASAMs only have a range of about 15 to 16 miles, according to publicly known information, meaning they are more so medium or short range air defense systems in the modern day, which are meant for point defense around the capital of Vilnius. It certainly can't cover the entirety of the airspace of Lithuania, and it wouldn't be intended for that, as the system does not have the range to be able to conduct full coverage of the country from a Russian attack. So I hope that does address that at least the best I can, in my opinion. And we've also been able to get some further news out of the Russian Federation today, not just in the category of the CIA directors meeting and also the escalations that are still ongoing against Ukraine and NATO. We have also been able to get other information outside of this, as we were able to hear that today it appears that the Russians have now made another threat against the United Kingdom. As the Russian former deputy foreign minister has said, there might be a semi-military response against the UK and its drone factories by quote-unquote unknown sources. Largely stating that the Russian Federation will be conducting direct attacks against British soil in the future, and this generally has come in response and retaliation of the British and the French allowing for the Ukrainians to produce, in limited sense, the Storm Shadow and Scalp-EG cruise missiles on Ukrainian territory, which was announced on our last stream on Sunday. We also were able to hear that the Russian Federation has moved on to some other interesting moves, at least within the capital, at the stock market. That's the stock market as of today.
That's pretty damn bad, I would say. I see one really bad outlier right there in the middle. That I think they've been taking some poundings recently. It looks like their company's finances are also taking a pounding too, from the looks of it.
You know, I've never really seen, Matthew, a single company lose about 30% of its stock value since the market opened yesterday. They've literally lost one in every three units of value for their company stocks in about 48 hours since the markets have opened. That's pretty bad. You know, honestly, folks, looking at that and knowing that Ozone has not even gotten to the level that Wildberries is at, if Wildberries was a publicly traded company, which it's not, Wildberries would have to be completely down and out of the game at this point just because of the stock value.
Yeah, I would say it seems like it. It's just really wild, like across the entire stock market for it to be going down like this. I mean, clearly the people in Russia are not very confident in Putin's abilities, or the stock market wouldn't be diving like this. If they thought the Russian military could handle the situation, that Putin was competent, then you wouldn't see drops like this. Certainly not.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely brutal. I gotta say, folks, we said well, actually Matthew was saying, man, I bet the stocks from ozone are going to be obliterated by Monday, and that was right. Like these things have been completely obliterated just from the strikes that were conducted over the weekend. Because the first strike, folks, on an an ozone warehouse was conducted after the Russian markets closed on Friday. And they were all conducted in between then and when the markets open on Monday. They're still getting hit right now, actually, but they plummeted in value. I mean, if this keeps going, folks, we might see the ozone goes under just because their stocks completely diminish into nothing and they don't actually have any value coming out of their stocks anymore to be able to keep the company running or to raise funds for their operation. It does not look good, to say the least. We also saw that apparently the Russians are already conducting mobilization in at least 17 different regions, according to the Moscow Times, and the victims include men with alcohol, drug, and mental health issues. One man in Novorossiysk was taken to the police station, beaten, had drugs planted on him, and was forced to sign a contract, at least according to the Moscow Times. In the Arkhangelsk region, a man was detained for drinking on the street and then sent to the front. I guess that means that every man in Russia could end up going to the front line someday. In Omsk, a man was taken from his job, held, and eventually had a contract signed for him. And in Udmurtia, a man was removed from psychiatric care and sent directly to the Donbass front. So it appears that the Russians are apparently trying to target the most vulnerable elements of their population or society, and they're trying to mobilize them first and send them on to the front. Is this producing a huge amount of numbers? Not really. Is this a full mobilization? No, not quite. If anything, it's a covert mobilization like the Moscow Times called it, because the numbers that they'll be getting from this sort of a process are going to be somewhat low. They might be able to get a couple of hundred, maybe a few thousand men across the nation every week, but that is only about a brigade's worth of men, and they're losing that number, or a regiment's worth of men, and they're losing that number of men in about a 2-day period right now, and wounded and killed. So is this really doing a lot to replace their numbers or keep them at sustainment level in terms of personnel? Not necessarily, but is it trying to mitigate the bleed of personnel in the Russian armed forces? And that is true. That is what this appears to be an attempt to do, at least for now, before the full mobilization is called into effect. And another crazy thing that happened today, folks, one of the decrees of the president of the Russian Federation that was not secret today and was not signed in silence came out, and it is an absolutely insane decree. To actually show y'all what it reads, this decree by the president of the Russian Federation today is on measures to ensure the security of critical infrastructure facilities of the Russian Federation. And according to Jay and Keefe, who gave a summary of this, and this summary is dead on point. I actually read this before the show, and this is dead on point. He has signed a decree to seize the businesses and full assets of businesses of companies that fail to protect themselves from Ukrainian drone and missile attacks.
Uh, so much for the Russian military protecting their own citizens from foreign attack. Like now, according to the decree that came out, now it's up to the companies to defend themselves against a foreign attack. It's like what are the Russians even paying taxes for at this point? If the companies have to defend themselves, it's like essentially what Putin said is these companies are sovereign. They're responsible for their own national defense.
Also, it's like, how the hell are companies supposed to protect themselves from a missile attack, like a cruise missile attack? It's like, what in the world could they ever get in an arsenal that would protect them from a flamingo?
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense, does it? It seems like there's almost an ulterior motive behind this.
It certainly does. Like, without a doubt, there is certainly an ulterior motive. But I also want to read y'all folks the legalese in this Russian decree, because it is actually kind of funny. Here it is, starting here. 1. To establish that in the event of failure or untimely adoption by the owner of measures to ensure the security of critical infrastructure facilities of the Russian Federation, hereinafter referred to as critical infrastructure facilities, or violation by the owner of the requirements for ensuring their security provided for by normative legal acts of the Russian Federation and decisions of authorities authorized in the field of ensuring the security of critical infrastructure facilities, or creation by the owner of a threat to the security of critical infrastructure facilities, or normal functioning of such facilities, including in the event of identification of the ineffectiveness of measures implemented directly to prevent the threat of an attack by, using unmanned aerial vehicles, or failure to restore or untimely restoration by the owner of the normal functioning of such facilities. Temporary management of the operation of such facilities may be introduced by decision of the government of the Russian Federation, adopted on the basis of a directive from the President of the Russian Federation.
Man, Putin's a straight up savage, honestly. He didn't defend his own people from these attacks, and now his own military is so incompetent he can't defend his own companies and people and, warehouses, etc. Even the oil refineries are getting hit left and right. And now he's saying, as a reward for Putin failing at his job, he's also going to take your company too.
Man, next thing you know, man, next week we're going to see Gazprom logoed S-300 air defense systems outside the gas facilities. Man, it's
They don't have the money.
like really, that's the point.
You think if the Russian Federation they can't afford to operate their own military systems, these companies, which are basically hanging by a thread, basically, they definitely can't afford it. They're barely hanging on.
I mean, honestly, it's like, what are they supposed to do? It's like the best they could do, folks. Most of these companies, in a practical sense, is what they've already done, which is have a couple of the employees get given AKs or issued AKs, put them outside, and just hope and pray that one of them gets lucky and they shoot it down. A Pantsir air defense system, folks, which are in limited number already, so there's none to buy. Like, the Russians just don't have a surplus to give out to these companies. Those things cost $15 million a pop. Most companies would hardly ever spend that money on a transportation fleet of semi-trucks for an entire region, much less a singular air defense system that only has enough range to cover one of their plants, much less all of them across the country. So there's quite literally no way in hell that any company in Russia is going to be able to buy or afford any types of real air defense systems. And on top of that, where in the world did the employees get the training? I don't really think that, Lukoil or Rosneft have training classes for their employees of how to operate the Panzer S-1 air defense system. Step 1, man the cab. Step 2, turn on the engine. So I don't think they have any of that, and I don't really think that training would be cheap either. So this is just completely out of the question as far as affordability goes for a Russian company to be able to do, meaning that any of them are screwed. If they get hit by a further Ukrainian attack, the Russians can just come and seize their whole company or that whole facility, and there's no way they can stop that. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this right now, this crazy decree, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so what do you think the reason is behind this? Because it really doesn't make much sense. It's understood across all the nations in the entire world that the government exists to protect its own people. I mean, that's the literal basis of a sovereign country, is they defend their people against foreign attacks. So now Putin's trying to rewrite that understanding of the way a country works, because now it's becoming convenient, or maybe there's a different reason for him doing that. So what is this? 63% of the audience said Russia's going broke and they're trying to find some money from somewhere, and they're basically going to start cannibalizing their own companies to stay alive. While 22% said Putin is forcing companies to defend themselves just to make it cheaper and more affordable for the Russian Federation, and 10% said it seems like a mix of the two. And I'll be honest, folks, of course, we can't say it for a certainty, but this reads to me as some cheap excuse to start grabbing money from companies. And that's what it seems like to me. Because what does temporary ownership mean, or temporary management? It's what does temporary management even look like? It's like the Putin regime can't even effectively manage anything right now. They're going under, they're panicking, they can't run the military right, it's falling apart, they're having to do a mobilization coming up as they're losing so many people. I mean, and now they're going to start temporarily managing these companies. It's that doesn't make any sense, really. So I'll be honest, it seems to me like a money grab. That's what it seems like. They're starting to cannibalize their own domestic industries to try to make some money and try to keep the Russian government afloat to a large degree. That's my guess. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would agree. This is the most open daylight robbery I've ever seen a government do on the planet in history. I've never seen anything like this, folks. This didn't even happen at the end of the war in Nazi Germany or the Empire of Japan, where they literally just said, okay, if the Allies bomb your factory, we're just absorbing it. It's nobody, I've never seen a country on the planet, folks, do this that I know of. This is the first time I've ever seen this in history that I can even account or recall, where a country has said, if you get your factory blown up by the enemy, we're taking over your factory and just running it ourselves. And it's what are they running? The rubble? I think the whole thing of this is to just try and seize the real estate, so that way the Russian government can claim maybe the real estate or the property as some sort of collateral to get further loans from banks, possibly, some sort of a scheme like that. I don't even know, because I don't even know how in the world this is actually supposed to generate any revenue.
Yeah, also, by the way, Clean Cut Cowboy said they're going full communist. Honestly, like it's really interesting to watch. Russia is slowly turning back into the USSR. Like the gas lines are here again that the USSR had. Now they're starting to like nationalize or basically threaten to nationalize major companies inside of Russia under the guise of defense. I mean, they're literally going back to the old days of the USSR. I mean, name some things, Enforcer, that they're not like anymore. Like they're taking huge leaps forward back toward like straight up communism, really, under the guise of trying to save themselves.
Boy, man, honestly, man, like when you think about it, it's like they've taken the worst of every system and they've just like embodied it. It's like you want the ethno state of Nazi Germany, they've got it. You want the communism of the Soviet Union, where there is no such thing as property rights or rights to property, you got that as well. It's like you got the bad of every single system. There is no good in the Russian governmental system, man. It's not like at some point they're like, well, the groceries are cheap. It's like there isn't even any groceries to buy right now. There's literally nothing at the
Yeah.
stores. It's like there's
It's like
nothing.
It's like people talk about Stalin being brutal and killing people and doing stuff like that. It's like, what about Putin? I mean, the amount of people he sent to the meat grinder to just die in a meat grinder situation, they have no hope of surviving. They last for like 30 minutes on the front lines these days. I mean, that's as brutal possibly as getting close to what happened way back in the day with the USSR too. Now, granted, it's not quite there yet, but I would imagine over the next couple of years, I think it's going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's got to be getting there. I just cannot believe, man. John Connolly said Nazism plus communism. I don't even know what that's called. What do we call that? Nazism? Like, I don't even know. Like, but it's that. Whatever that would be called. That's this. Like, they have the worst elements of a fascist government and a communist government melded into one in Russia at this point, and this is one of the best examples of that we can see yet. Not even the Soviet government folks did this. You just didn't have property in the Soviet government. They didn't go around and say, if the enemy attacks you, instead of trying to help you out, we're going to screw you over even further as the Russian government. It's like now not even is it just the Ukrainian armed forces that are the enemy of major Russian industries. Now they got to be scared of the Russian government coming on along and finishing them off after the Ukrainians blow up their factory. It's like that is nuts. I've never seen anything like this. Literally, folks, first in history that I've ever seen that I know of. So moving us on out of that little bit of news, and finally on out of well, actually, we have one more thing in Moscow to cover that I actually put off on its own before we move on to everything else that's happened around the world, because we were able to hear from Alexander Dugin today, or Dookie, whichever way you'd like to put it. We were able to hear from the top Ruski Mir philosopher, ideologue, if you want to call him that, a statement that was made simply on Twitter today, and this was also made after the visit by the CIA director. He stated the following, simply put: if you want us to not escalate, give us Ukraine, and we won't. You know, I remember, Matthew, there was another guy who had facial hair, not like his. This guy looks like Santa. But there was another guy with a certain type of distinct facial hair. He had like a toothbrush mustache. And I remember he said something similar to some people back then. I think he said, if you give us the Czech Sudetenland, then we won't escalate.
Yeah, it's like a shark. Once it smells the blood in the water, it's not going to stop. It's going to go for the entire person next. Once they smell the blood in the water, so that's the way I see it with Putin. It's like once he's gotten his taste of being able to like actually go invade a country like Ukraine, he's made a little progress. Now it's sort of gotten bogged down. Now he's getting desperate. It's like he's going to go for the whole thing eventually, out of desperation or out of pure ambition. He's going to go for the whole thing eventually. So it follows a similar pattern. It's really truly history, like basically repeating itself to a large degree. And I think maybe the U.S. is starting to realize that. I think the CIA director going there today indicates they might be waking up to that to a certain degree and realizing that Putin's not just doing the stuff out of just, feeling like aggressing against people one day. He's actually has a plan in mind and he's wanting to go further.
I think that he certainly is wanting to go further, without question. And also, Dugin is probably behind the scenes definitely spurning that on, considering, folks, that Dugin is the creator of the whole Ruski Mir concept, which is what the Russians live and breathe every single day in the government, which is this idea that the Russian people are superior peoples, everyone else to the west of them is completely inferior peoples that are stupid and helpless, and the Russians are owed by some sort of divine providence to rule over and subjugate these other people in Western Europe, and Poland, the Baltics, Belarus, and Ukraine, and so they must push westward and take over these territories. If y'all listen to that, folks, it's so insanely similar to what the German principle under Hitler was of autarky. it quite literally is the same thing, just instead of going west, the Germans went east. Because they said the same thing. The German people are superior to everybody else, and all the people of Eastern Europe are completely inferior and stupid, and the Germans, by some divine providence, are deemed to be able to rule over them and should invade them and take them over and wipe them out, and then also exploit them for slave labor and whatnot, and that's why they have to invade the Soviet Union and eventually take it over and crush them. Same sort of thinking. The Germans did it in 1930, and the Russians are doing it right now in the 2010s and the 2020s. It's just an opposite direction of travel that these offensives are moving in, but in the same
Yeah.
area of the world.
We even have the modern day Neville Chamberlain to finish off the entire historical roundup too. We have that again. It's literally like it's really like kind of creepy how history kind of repeats like that. It's like what are the odds of the same series of circumstances just in a different area like repeats itself? It's like it's just really weird. There's only like a handful of ways this can go. Like history shows us that, and I think unfortunately, if you use history as a guide here, it's going to move toward aggression instead of de-escalation. I think it's pretty clear.
I think it is pretty clear. And with how the governments are acting right now, which are the exact same ways every single government behaved before the Second World War, we're only begging the Russians to start the conflict. Because much like back then, folks, with Hitler, for example, greatest example we have because Putin's basically an analogy of him in the modern day. When Hitler kept on annexing further territories, he annexed Austria in the Anschluss of 1937. In the Munich Agreement, he got the Sudetenland, and then he just went and annexed the rest of the Czech Republic and created a puppet state out of Slovakia just because he wanted to, and the European countries did nothing. France and Britain did nothing. When Germany moved on to Danzig in Poland, the free city of Danzig, which wasn't even a part of Poland technically, it was a free city, so it was devoid of any governmental control of the Germans or the Poles, he said, I think the Allies are so weak because they let me annex the entirety of the Czech Republic, they gave me the Sudetenland, and they also let me annex Austria. I don't think they're doing squat when it comes to me taking over Danzig or going to war with Poland. And then he was finally wrong because that was finally the line that was crossed. And then the Allies declared war on the Germans when they invaded Poland. But by then, the Allies had given such a large rap sheet of being weak and spineless that the Germans thought that that time would be like any other time and everyone would just sit by and watch them do what they were going to do and stand by and do nothing. And we didn't. That's what we're doing right now. The Russians are getting very close to crossing our line that exists. And they're getting much closer to it with each passing month. Yet every single time they do a provocation, we back off and act mild about it. And that only entices them to keep going because they keep seeing that they can just keep doing more and they're not really crossing a line. And eventually they will cross our line. At some point, somewhere they will. But they don't know where that is. And probably a lot of the leaders here in the West don't really know where that is either. It's going to be something that just spontaneously happens and we end up in a war with them because we showed way too much weakness at the beginning of it.
Yeah, I would
But
definitely agree with that, certainly.
And so, moving us on out of that, folks, we are actually going to take a little bit of a break here from Eastern Europe. We'll return to all of this here in a little bit because we have humongous news coming out of the drone attacks that were conducted by Ukraine today and a whole bunch of other stuff that happened in Eastern Russia as well. But before we get to all of that and the war in Ukraine itself, I want to make sure that we get on down to the Middle East and cover all of the news that we have from down here today. But before we get to that, I do have to say a humongous thanks to every single person who has been watching so far tonight. We've had a peak viewership of 22,000 people who are here at the peak tonight, and 72,000 people have watched the stream since it started. I've got to say that we're always entirely honored and greatly appreciative to know that so many of y'all consider this channel a primary source of news and watch it day in and day out to be able to get your stories on what's going on around the world. And I hope that tonight we've been able to convey a very compelling story to y'all, one that's had a lot of evidence and analysis put into it. And we still have a lot more to go, folks. We have a lot of interesting stuff out of the Middle East today, a little bit out of East Asia, and also an interesting amount out of the rest of Europe that we've not been able to get to. But before we get to all that, I do want to make sure that we take a brief moment to get to chit chat to a couple of y'all. So we're going to take 3 questions from the chat, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of the news for the night. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so our first super chat of the night is going to go to none other than 2C2C856. And thank you very much, good sir, for that $50 support right there. And we do appreciate that because it's that support through the super chats that keeps our channel running night in and night out, no ads. And we do appreciate all the super chatters each and every night. And he said, I feel Russia is not only testing NATO response, but they are also trying to sabotage any strategic advantage from surrounding NATO countries before a major provocation. And in your opinion, what is going to be the tipping point of de-escalation?
I would say that the tipping point of an escalation is probably going to be when the Russians attack a NATO state and someone ends up getting killed. So far, because of the Galati incident, we know that wounded NATO citizens are apparently do not arise to the level to create a necessary provocation on the Russian side for NATO to respond. And so that means that the only thing that's left is that NATO citizens have to die in an attack for there to be an actual response. Critical infrastructure might get a response if that is attacked, but I have a feeling that with the NATO mindset these days, as long as nobody is killed, then that also would probably be overlooked as well. And I hate to say that, folks, because that means that some innocent people out here on the NATO frontier are going to die someday, just so that way the government officials can have something to look at, I guess dead bodies or whatnot, to look at to actually go, oh, well, you know what? The Russians have actually crossed the line, and now it's time to actually escalate. And by then, it's going to be far too late. I don't really think, folks, that we should see members of a NATO state as red smears along the pavement to have to finally go and say, well, you know, I think the Russians have done enough. I think they've crossed the line. I think we need to respond to them and put a heavy foot down before that happens, because I don't really like the idea of innocent people in our alliance dying because we do not want to act too rashly. I mean, at this point, with the CIA director going to Russia, it's clear they're doing something. Do NATO citizens have to die to make that clear to the government officials, considering that they already know? No. So why in the world are we going to wait for that to happen? And we know that that's what's going to happen, because if someone goes, no, they would react if people get wounded. Well, they didn't. They didn't. If y'all don't recall, down in Galati, which is a Romanian city on the Danube, a Russian drone hit this apartment building right here, this exact apartment room where my mouse cursor is at, and wounded 2 Romanian citizens with an explosion. The drone was armed with a bomb. It blew up on their apartment building and it wounded 2 of them. They nearly got killed. But because they weren't killed, NATO didn't do anything. That has now set the marker at people have to die. There's literally nothing else that can be that grave or severe than people getting wounded as someone dying here in NATO. And that's what I think is very concerning about this, is that they're not willing to react unless if there is some sort of a mass fatality incident, not just a mass casualty incident like we saw in Galati. And that I'm not too happy
God forbid
with.
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I would agree. Like that's the thing that's the thing that's concerning about this, is that it looks like we're on a track where that would have to happen for NATO to escalate, but that is absolutely ridiculous that that has to happen, because it shouldn't happen. We should not be allowing the Russians to get to that level to do something like that, to put people in that much harm and jeopardy for us to finally put our foot down and do something. We should be doing something right here and right now. So I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion. And a big thanks to you for support to CTC 856 and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here on air talking about the news that quite literally no other news agency is talking about right now. We wouldn't be able to cover what's going on around the world every day, say what needs to be said, and support American and Western interests, and try and keep our allies and our American sphere alive and well, and to try and keep all of our people safe and healthy here in the Western sphere as much as we can, just by trying to raise the alarm and let people know that they need to be aware of these sorts of things, of what's coming around the corner and what we should be doing. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have here a $20 support from Sedano Hosoda. And thank you very much, Sedano, for the 20 as well. And also helping to keep the channel running. And Sedano said, I appreciate you guys.
And thank you so much for the support, Sadata Hosoda, and we appreciate you greatly, because you're helping us to keep this thing running. You're helping us to keep it rolling each and every single day. This channel runs entirely off of viewer support. That means the folks out there who go out of their way to support this channel in the Super Chats or on Patreon and help us to be able to keep this channel running thanks to their victory bucks. We can keep this thing rolling every single day. We can keep the lights on. We can keep ourselves fed. Maybe fed a little too well in my case. But we can keep fed. We can keep the lights on. And we can keep this thing running every day to keep covering the news. And I got to thank you greatly for the incredible support, Sadata Hosoda, to help this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here for you to even appreciate the work. Your support is what folks should appreciate, because it helps us to stay here on air. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the final question of the segment, and then we're moving on into the rest of the news for the night.
All right, so the last one, the segment's going to go to none other than Mr. Bozo. And thank you, Mr. Bozo, for that support right there. 20 Canadian, and we do appreciate that. He said, maybe I've missed it, but I'd like to know your opinion on the massive trade war between the USA and Canada. Uh-oh.
Oh
Uh-oh.
boy.
Oh no. Oh man. I've been watching the statements flying back and forth. We can't comment a whole bunch like too detailed on this because it starts getting into domestic politics to a certain degree. But it's like it's complicated because I can understand where the Canadian Prime Minister is coming from. Isn't it the Prime Minister, Doug Ford? He's the Prime Minister, right?
I thought it was Carney.
I know Carney's out. I think it's Doug Ford now. I'm pretty sure. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that, though. I might have his name mixed up. But I've been seeing him make the statements, and honestly, he seems like he's fed up with getting treated like crap. I'll be honest with you, as an American, I think we're treating Canada like crap. Personally, it seems like we're making a bunch of hostile statements at them for largely no reason. If there's a dispute, like settle that behind closed doors or something. But so is Mark? Is he in there right now?
Yeah, he's the Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay, so who's Doug Ford then? What position does he hold? Because he's the one making the statements.
Let's see. He's probably like the foreign minister, I would assume. Oh, he's the premier of Ontario.
Okay, yeah, he's the one making the statements I've been seeing been made recently. So he's getting very feisty with the U.S. and the U.S. is getting feisty back with him too.
But also Carney's been involved to a degree as well. But the premier of Ontario, if you don't know, Matt, he's got a little bit of a history of being an interesting camera personality. This is not the first
Oh yeah,
time.
I've heard him.
Yeah, like this is not the first time that he's been in the spotlight for reasons. But beyond that though, my personal opinion is that it's not a good position for the United States to be in an endless spat with the Canadians. There's been a lot of stupid stuff said, and I would have to say, as an American, I like to say that the United States. I'm a patriot. Just to put that out there, I like to say the United States takes primacy over everything, and we're supposed to be looking out for what's best for the United States. But what's best for the United States in a lot of cases is good for our allies, or as the old saying goes, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so you can't go around dissing on Canada because they're just not the United States of America when the Canadians are quite literally one of our largest trading partners on the planet. Our total trade with them last year in 2025 was $877 billion. The only single country that beat them out was Mexico at nearly $1 trillion in collective trade. The European Union, which is an entire international bloc of nations in Europe, made up $1.5 trillion. When you look at those numbers, you can't really go around just pissing off the Canadians every single day because one, we have humongous trade relations with them, and two, doing any kind of economic warfare with them is extremely devastating. I mean, if y'all thought that the little tariff war that we had last year in 2025 was bad, with China being our third largest trading partner, Canada has a value that's about 30% larger than theirs as a trading partner. Imagine the damage and the fallout that could come
Oh,
from that.
jeez. Yeah, also the timing, like the timing recently on all these different events happening around the world and these escalations couldn't be any worse. And the bad part about it is the U.S. is choosing to make these escalations in a trade sense in a time where it looks like World War III is about to break out. It's like if anything, even if we have a problem with Canada, like just giving them the benefit of the doubt, let's say there is a trade problem that needs resolving. Now's not the time to start fracturing our relationship with Canada if we're about to go into a global war situation. It's like now is not the time for that. It's like if it looks imminent, which I would assume it looks like it is, the CIA director is heading to Moscow himself to go deliver a message, which can't be good, obviously. It's like, do we really want to start fighting with all of our allies at a time like that? We're going to need their assistance if that war breaks out.
Yeah, like we are going to need their assistance. We'll especially need Canada's for the security of the Arctic. It's like we don't want to get in a spat with them. Because it's like even in the middle of a wartime, folks, spats like these will cause rifts and divides between them and their armed forces and us and our armed forces mixed the two of them. And that will lead to a decrease of efficiency up there in the Arctic, which is going to be quite important in an upcoming conflict. And that could lead to someone exploiting that, like the Chinese or the Russians. Who's to say? And so we don't need to be getting into a conflict with the Canadians. And if anything, folks, if you like a basic economic rule, folks, of a country is that trade is not bad. Trade actually makes a lot of money. Trade in a larger sense and the umbrella sense is good. It's not good whenever it gets into a predatory category where a country starts to completely undercut you and destroy some sort of a domestic industry, like the agricultural industry. Then in those limited instances, you have to bring in protective tariffs to be able to protect our domestic industries. But in the by and large, trade is a good thing, and trade creates a lot of money for us and helps us to be able to grow out our consumer base and also the GDP, the national GDP and the GDP per capita for our citizens, or their median income by giving them better paying jobs because there's somewhere for their goods and their labor to go for sale internationally, and that makes a good amount of money, or they're shipping in goods that are affordable for our people to be able to buy, meaning that they can buy more with their same dollar and they can stretch a dollar farther. That makes the Canadians money and that makes us money. It's a good mutual relationship. Trying to blow something like that up, especially with Canada or Mexico, is an absolutely ridiculous idea on a foreign policy economic sense, and I'm not at all in support of that. I think that it would be much better for us to foster a very positive relationship with the Canadians and grow economic and also trade relations with them. And also, folks, I gotta throw this out there as a little bit of a point, because some people are going to go, oh, but Enforcer, because this will of course be the natural statement by some, oh, but Enforcer, the Canadians, they're like the Chinese communists. Well, yeah, but also the president went to communist China just this year and said we were going to grow trade relations with them. So if we're willing to grow trade relations with the enemy of the republic, why in the world won't we grow trade relations with a softcore version of communist China? If that's your claim. I don't even think they are the softcore version of communist China. They're not even close to that. But you give me the answer to that, of why we would be willing to grow relations with the actual communist Chinese and then punish the Canadians for kind of just being communist China light, according to some people's arguments.
Yeah, I tell you, it's weird. Like messing up the relationship with Canada and getting in a fight, and also making it very nasty too. Not just a fight, but then it's turning personal, where it starts becoming a bigger rift than it needs to be. And then we're importing mystery beef from who the hell knows where. They won't even say where the beef's coming from that we're taking into the United States from a foreign country, which it's got me scared to eat beef at this point. It's like I'm getting sick of this, to be honest. Like it's really absurd. Like I'm like we shouldn't feel paranoid to go like buy beef. Like we really shouldn't. Like it's the mystery beef. I don't know what the hell that is, but it scared me the other day when they wouldn't say where it came from. I don't know where the hell that came from, but it's got me worried.
Man, honestly, well, like, really, it had me worried. I also saw a lot of people saying, don't you dare compare Canada to the communist Chinese. I'm not. Some people do, but I think that's a stupid statement. It's like how the hell are the Canadians like the communist Chinese in any way? They're not. Like, give me one example, and someone will be like, oh, but they restrict rights. It's like, well, yeah, but the U.S. government is currently doing that right now, so really, what's the difference? That's like, what is this, the American Communist China, you know? It's like, I don't even understand the argument there. And also, I don't understand how that's supposed to stop us from having major trade relations with them, considering that they're on the same continent with us, and we make a lot of money off of their trade. And they make a lot of money off of it as well. It's like, why in the world are we going to sink that entire golden goose because you have a personal disagreement with something in Canadian politics? Isn't that for Canadians to get involved in and decide, and for them to figure out in their own national elections if they don't like something? It seems to me to be the case. But anyways, a big thanks to you for support, though, and helping this channel to keep it running and making this thing possible, bozo. Because it wasn't for folks like you. And also, by the way, that's his name, folks. I'm not even kidding. His name in the super chat is Bozo. But if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running and make it possible. And we wouldn't be able to support American and Western interests around the globe, which are mutual. And so a big thanks to you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it's now time for us to move on, folks, from our Argentine horse meat burgers and on into the rest of the world, particularly in the Middle East, because we have quite a lot of information and news coming out of the Middle East over the course of this D. So let's get right on into it, folks. It appears that the U.S. blockade on the blockade line in the Gulf of Oman is actually creating some sort of fallout within Iran, finally. It looks like there are now fuel shortages appearing in some Iranian cities, and we are seeing that in video and picture evidence. We were able to see a couple of pictures here showing some fuel lines in Iran. And apparently, we're now hearing that it's reached the following cities, or the following stations are currently out of service in Tehran: the Pasdaran station, the Mirdamad, Shariati Park, Damavand, Mirza-e Shirazi, and Dolat gas stations in Tehran are apparently now having service shortages or outages. Some stations are reportedly limiting purchases to 20 liters per vehicle. With estimates that restoring oil and gas output to pre-war levels could take up to 2 years, the regime faces a difficult choice: raise fuel prices and risk unrest, or maintain current prices as shortages deepen. And it's only going to be getting worse from here, according to open source intel. We also were able to get further reports that apparently there are other cities that have had fuel shortages in the country, including Tehran, Mashhad, and Kerman. And we'll show you a clip here of this guy.
wait, man. It said Ahmad's S24 Ultra right there on the screen. Apparently, he's got his stuff connected.
Ahmad, where's your S24 Ultra connected? Yes, Habibi. Man. But he showed the line. Oh, he's got that little
music,
piano.
music. He's got that. He's literally this dude's playing the meme music. Look at the other dude. He walked up like Stromboli. It's like, what's he doing?
Man, he just walked up like, Stromboli! Look at him. Oh, welcome. Have all the gas you want. It's like, brother, ain't none to have, man. What are you talking about? We also got another clip here showing the lines at another gas station inside of Iran.
صف بنزین از اینجا شروع میشه 5 صبح.
They got everybody waiting in this line.
And they got the semis, bumper to bumper. There's some guy sleeping in the street right in front of his car. That seems like a bad spot. It's like,
that's pretty stupid.
You know, I feel like, folks, this guy is trying to see if he could be a winner of the Darwin Award. Either this guy is going to back up onto him, or someone's going to bump his car to try and push it forward, and his own car is going to run him over. But that just doesn't look like a good idea. You see, folks, this little car right here was actually in the Gulf War of '91. It was used by the Iraqi Guard Corps, or the Iraqi, the Fedayeen, and they ended up abandoning it on the highway down there near Kuwait, and then they just drove this thing on into Iran, apparently, because that thing looks as old as the Vietnam War.
تا جایگاه باز بشه شروع کنیم بنزین دادن. اینا با زن و بچه خوابیدن تو ماشین 3 ساعت. حالا یکی جلوییه که فکر کنم ساعت 2 و 3 اومد. حالا ما الان عقبیم 5 رسید.
Also, I see, I want to check this really quickly. Some people said he's praying. Well, he's laying on his side, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Islamic ritual for prayer requires you to be on both legs in kind of like a kneeling sitting position, and then leaning forward and putting your hands out to be able to pray. I'm pretty sure that is the prayer format inside of the Middle East. I don't really believe it's laying on your side with a blanket over you on a mat. Like, that doesn't really look
whatever the hell he's doing, sleeping, praying, or whatever. He's in an active roadway with a traffic jam, literally laying in front of his car. It's like, whatever the hell he's doing is stupid.
Man, I guess someone's gonna come by. Are you praying, inshallah? No. I'm just making sure that my car's got its tires inflated. I just had my eyes closed to check if there were any holes in my eyelids. Like, man, that's one hell of a prayer right there, I tell you. Man, that's like going by someone at a park bench, sleeping with their mouth open, snoring, and you're like, damn, look at that guy. He's passed out. No, he's not. He's praying to Jesus. It's like, no, he's not. Man, like, what are you talking about? I mean, they're out here waiting. Man, but that's the end of that clip. It does appear the fuel shortages are worsening inside the country. Moving us on out of that, we also were able to hear that apparently U.S. intelligence has found out that there might be a probable uranium storage facility identified in the Natanz nuclear complex. Y'all know the ones we bombed last year in Operation Midnight Hammer, and the president has up and down sworn and claimed was completely destroyed and there's absolutely nothing usable there anymore. Well, apparently they've now found out that there might actually be some hidden enriched uranium at the complex that was not destroyed in the bombing of last year. So quite something here, quite something. And it looks like right now we have a poll talking about these fuel shortages within Tehran. And so, Matthew, what do we got there?
All right, so we got to get to the poll. We're missing polls left and right tonight, but the poll question says, Tehran is now experiencing severe nationwide gasoline shortages. As you can tell by the gas lines, absolutely horrendous. So will this economic D-Day work, or is this even related whatsoever to the so-called economic D-Day that the U.S. is enacting on Iran? It looks like the poll is pretty much evenly split across the board. I haven't seen this in a long time, actually. 30% of the audience said, yes, it looks hopeful that maybe economic D-Day will work on Iran, while 29% said Iran will suffer a little bit, and 28% said no, it's basically a lost cause at this point. And I would say, I'm not even really sure if this is connected to it, to be honest, because we saw today satellite imagery showing ships doing ship-to-ship transfers all day long in the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz. So I don't think the blockade's working as well as they claim it's working, because once you do ship-to-ship transfers, I mean, it's a lost cause trying to track where it's coming from at that point. So I just don't have much hope in it. I see some people in the chat, they have some hope in it. Like, I hope for the best. I hope it actually works and puts pressure on Iran, but I'll be honest, I don't really see it working that well. So I think Iran is already suffering. They'll probably continue suffering because that's just the natural state of their country at this point under this extremist regime that runs the place. So I'm with the 29%. I think the suffering will continue and it's not going to change anytime soon, but they're not going to collapse as a result of economic D-Day. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, I'm trying to catch these polls, by the way, man. The chat's flying so quickly, though. It's like 130 a minute. I'm not seeing your warnings. Like, they're literally showing up and disappearing instantly. But outside of that, though, I've never seen a 30-30 split, or a 30-30-30 split almost on every single option outside of unsure and undecided on a poll recently. I would have to go with the 29%, though, as well. It looks like they are suffering more so than they had been before the conflict, but it's not by a great deal. And also, the blockade by the United States at the blockade line isn't as effective as it's looking to be, from what we can tell. And we will be getting to the ship-to-ship transfer news here very soon, actually, to show you all what we're talking about. But it looks like a lot of the oil that the Iranians are still trying to ship out is making it out, and the Iranian government is still most likely raising revenues as a result of that to be able to try and keep the conflict running, or at least keep governmental and military functions running in the meantime. So I would be with a 29%. It looks like they are suffering a little, but I don't think that's going to be putting them completely down and out at this point. But moving us on out of that bit of news in the poll right there, it's now time for us to move on back and into the Natanz facility, as it now appears that the Institute for Science and International Security has identified a separately enclosed, partially below ground bunkered building at the Natanz nuclear complex that was likely intended to serve as uranium hexafluoride storage facilities to support large-scale uranium enrichment at the Natanz fuel enrichment plant. The bunkered structure was constructed between 2010 and 2017, with the bulk of the construction occurring between 2015 and 2017. Given Iran's focus on enriching its low-enriched uranium to highly enriched uranium and decision to store large amounts of HEU at locations other than Natanz, it is unclear how the building was used before the June 2025 war. It is also unclear what role it has since played. The building has ample room to store a significant number of UF630B, 48X, and 48Y cylinders, far more storage than is required for the amount of UF6 Iran produced. The floor space is more than enough to house Iran's pre-June 2025 inventory of uranium enriched to less than 5%, as well as depleted uranium that has resulted from pre-JCPOA and post-2018 enrichment. The building has ample room to store a significant number of the following cylinders, and it also states at 1,500 square meters, with a conservative half of 2/3 of the amount used for storage, and the other half of, to 1/3 for clearance operations and handling. The facility could dedicate about 750 to 1,000 square meters to the storage of UF6 cylinders. To put this into perspective, the storage of current enriched uranium stocks and depleted uranium tails is estimated to take up at most about 150 square meters. This represents around 10% of the total estimated floor space, or up to 20% of the total available storage floor space. The floor space lines up better with planned enrichment scenarios. For example, the available space matches the storage requirement for the annual product plus accumulated tails for 10 years of operations at 100 kilograms per SWU per year, if cylinders are stored in a single layer. But largely, this is going on to say that it appears that there is a part of the Natanz facility that is still intact, that looks to possibly be housing the enriched uranium that the Iranians may still be hiding and are still hiding inside of their country. So a little bit of something to chew on there, that it does still seem the Iranians probably have their unenriched and enriched weapons-grade uranium sitting somewhere at the Natanz enrichment site, possibly, and that's that. And at the same time, the president's claiming that the Iranians will never have a nuclear weapon. In the meantime, we understand that there is enough nuclear materials and facilities throughout the country to probably keep the nuclear program running for some time on into the future. Moving us on out of that news, however, and on out of central Iran, we also have been able to see that there was a humongous number of ship-to-ship transfers that were underway inside of the Gulf of Oman today. There were at least 15 sets of STS transfers taking place, And according to tankertrackers.com, they counted 25 million barrels of crude oil plus some refined products. The oil originates from almost every region, country in the region, minus Iran. So we are seeing that there is.
Yeah, right. Honestly, like, yeah, obviously, these appear to be ship-to-ship transfers, and they probably are from countries that are friendly to the United States. But if we believe, and if anybody out there truly believes that Iran's also not doing this, and I would have to say that's being a little bit naive. Iran is almost certainly doing this too, so that way they can try to get through the U.S. blockade, and it's not being reported on. But I could almost guarantee you that Iran's doing the exact same thing, and it's very hard for the U.S. to detect where that oil came from once they do that, and it can simply slip out of the Strait of Hormuz, and nobody's the wiser if they do ship-to-ship transfers.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, clearly the Iranians would be getting involved in this. And we also have to remember, folks, that the president mentioned in one of his Twitter rants that they were doing ship to ship transfers. So clearly they are. These are the ones that we saw just today of ship to ship transfers. And some people are wondering, why are these being done? It's because the Iranians won't allow the ships that are carrying the oil to get out. So what they're doing is that they're bringing in Chinese flagged vessels that aren't going to Iranian ports, or they're bringing in other vessels flagged out of a country like China, loading the oil onto those ships, and then shipping it out via the Strait of Hormuz, and then the blockade line at the Gulf of Oman, at the U.S. line, and then they're leaving the area. That's generally what's believed at this point. But the problem is, folks, is that we're still not really seeing any of these get through the strait on AIS transponder or not. Because remember, everybody, a ship eventually has to turn on its AIS transponder again. It doesn't just Bravo 6 going dark and then stay dark its entire voyage until it shows up at a port of call somewhere on the other side of the world. It has to turn on the AIS transponder eventually because it's a safety measure to stop it from colliding with other ships, which, believe it or not, folks, happens a lot when the transponders and the radars aren't working on these vessels. So they have to make sure to turn it back on when they get into the Persian Gulf or in the Gulf of Oman. And we have still seen that as of today, there has not been a single oil tanker that has magically reappeared in the Gulf of Oman or the Persian Gulf today. So hardly any of these tankers are still making it through, meaning that the amount of oil getting out of the Strait weekly is quite literally a dribble. It's maybe like 2 million barrels a week, which is absolutely nothing, considering that it's supposed to be moving about 23 million barrels a day. 2 million barrels a week is quite literally nothing. We also were able to hear that over the course of last night, another UK MTO report came out from the Strait of Hormuz. The UK MTO received a report of an incident 9 nautical miles north of Ash-Shishash, Oman, or Ash-Shisha, if I'm able to pronounce that correctly. The master of an oil tanker reports the vessel has been struck by an unknown projectile, causing damage to the engine room and disabling the vessel. Crew are reported safe, and environmental impact is unknown at the time of the report. Vessels are advised to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity to the UK MTO. The Iranians attacked another ship, in short, folks. They blew up another one that was going down the Omani shipping corridor. So, it looks to me like the Iranians still aren't allowing passages. We also were able to hear that further on up and on the Iranian side, Russian state media today, RIA Novosti, reported that the Iranians and the U.S. agreed on a ceasefire, sources in Iran and Pakistan said. Mind you that no other news source reported this on the planet. Like, literally none. The truce provides for free navigation in the strait. That blown up ship is telling me otherwise. The official announcement of the truce is expected in the coming days. And according to the Post, they just go on to say largely the same thing that the bulletin point said.
Man, I love it. At the end right there, it says the agency's interlocutors said. That reminds me of that hiccup back in the day. It was like, look, come on, man, trusted interlocutors. You remember that? Honestly, man, what the hell's an interlocutor? Like, what the hell even is that?
I thought it was an interlocutor.
I don't think. I think it's Borg or something. What is an interlocutor? Can we pull up the definition of that? Because I'll admit I don't even know what the hell interlocutor even means.
Let's play the audio of how you say this.
Interlocutors.
What the hell?
Damn, bro, what the hell's wrong with him?
Interlocutors.
I think you need to seek a medical help because it sounds like something's not connecting.
Bro, someone hit me over the head with an extremely large wooden bat. You hear me walking through. You go, what the hell happened to you? What's that gash in the top of your head? Interlocutors. Bro, like, man, but beyond that, though, an interlocutor or an interlocutor is a person who takes part in a conversation, dialogue, or discussion. So it's really just a fly on the wall, basically.
Okay, so they're a conversation participant or an interlocutor.
I've never sat there and said, yeah, you know that guy who was sitting there listening to us? Like, I usually say that. I usually don't say, yeah, you remember that Inalacuta guy? Yeah, that guy. Like, yeah, he was listening. It's like, the hell? It's like, who the hell says that? But beyond that, though, they said the strait's going to be reopened. Not a single media agency, folks, on the planet has reported this but REI Novosti, which is leading me to believe this might be nothing but BS. We'll have to wait and see. It maybe will end up might be true, but I'm doubting it. Moving us to the U.S. side, however, it's batting up against untrue statements of other varieties. Let me get you all into them. They're fun. The failing Islamic Republic of Iran is not paying large segments of their military, while at the same time killing protesters, even when they're not protesting, at levels not even seen before. It is a humanitarian
Huh?
crisis of epic proportions and must be stopped now.
Wait a second. Like, I'm now I feel like the dude saying interlocutor, like he's having a stroke. I feel like I'm having a stroke. Let's see. While at the same time killing protesters, even while they're not protesting. Well, then they're not protesters if they're not protesting. Is it? I
Man,
mean, am I not understanding something?
man, those bank robbers are making runs on the banks, even when they're not robbing the banks. Bro, it's like,
Oh my goodness, I don't even understand this. Also, by the way, I've not seen any reports at all that there's any type of like mass atrocities taking place. I mean, we know that they took place like a month or two ago and they happened, but I don't know what he's talking about here because I mean, I haven't seen anything in the OSINT world suggesting that's the case at all.
also, the other thing is, folks, it's like, well, this is this kind of like, I don't mean, folks, to kind of like, you know, call out the stupidity of the president's statements every time he makes them, but I just gotta point out here, if he's got a problem with it, why in the world did we stop the war where this government still is existing to where they can do this kind of stuff to the people in Iran? If this was
Yeah, I
such a
thought we
big
said we were
thing,
going to save them.
yeah, if this was such a big thing to us, it's like, why didn't we just keep the war going and steamroll the Islamic regime so that way they can't do this to to these poor people in Iran anymore? Like we stopped the war, we let the stuff keep going, whether it's going or not right now, I can't tell you. I would assume it probably is at a low level, but it's still going. And then this guy goes, "Oh, what a shame! If someone could do something about it." It's like, yeah, that's what you originally claimed you were setting out to do, and then you didn't do it. So why are you complaining about it now? It's like you're either complaining about it to do something about it, or you're not going to do something about it and don't complain about it then.
Okay, I see some people in the chat saying he might be referring to like limited executions, possibly. If that's what he's referring to, I mean, I think there was 3 people that were executed about a week ago. I think so. That did happen. Like that's something that actually took place. But suggesting that Iran's killing protesters. It's like I guess technically that's a way to understand it. I guess, but you know, I don't know. Like the way it's worded, it sounds different.
Honestly, it sounds to me like it's basically rephrasing the massacres of January, the genocide of January, and it's just saying like they're wiping them out in the streets, and they're not even in the streets. Like I don't really I don't understand the words because if he's talking, by the way, BC Scammon, about those poor 3 men who were executed, I believe in Isfahan, if I'm not mistaken. Why didn't he say that? Like it's like this is such confusing wordage. It's like I don't even know what he's getting at here because if he's getting at that, it's lost on me. It sounds like he's saying that they're killing the protesters out in the streets, like when they're not protesting or something. But still, it's brutal what's going on in Iran. I also see you quoting what the human rights monitors are reporting, and it is unfortunate what's still going on in Iran. But at the same time, though, it's like he could have done something about it. And he started the war, and then we fought it quite poorly in the first phase, and then we've been trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces since. And it's like either he's ending the war like they basically have admitted they are because they're not bombing Iran anymore, and we're ending the war. So apparently, it's not important enough to him to do anything about it, or it's important enough to do something about it. And he's saying this because he's planning on doing something, but he can't have the cake and eat it. Where he says this and then does nothing to try and fix it. It's like it's either a big enough problem to fix or it's not. That's generally how I look at it, honestly, BC Scamming. But I definitely do get your point. But moving us on from that, we also were able to hear that another statement came out from the president today. I've just been informed by the United States Navy that all mines have been removed and are detonated from within the international waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has been notified that any ship or boat placing new mines will be immediately and systematically destroyed. Through Space Force, we are watching every square inch of the strait, as we are also with Pickaxe Mountain and the already destroyed 3 other nuclear sites. There is a zero tolerance policy on mine placement in full force and effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
I thought they said like 3 or 4 days ago that the mines were removed. Why is it being removed again for another time?
Hasn't he said this like 90 times at this point since the start of the war that the mines have been completely removed and they're gone? Like this has got to be like the
Yeah.
12th time.
I just, it sounds like we're nitpicking the hell out of it. But I mean, these are legitimate inconsistencies at this point. I mean, you can't say like, like last week, oh, the mines it's free and clear. It's free and clear. And then again, today on August the 25th, which is what it appears to be the post is dated, it says, I've just been informed. It's like, well, how are you just informed today if you said like days ago that it was cleared out? That's why it's hard to take these statements at face value because it's all over the place. It's like, it's either today or it was last week. It's one or the other. It can't be both.
Folks, today I've got the great honor of telling y'all that I finally earned me millionth dollar 1 week ago. Folks, I have the great pleasure of telling you that I have earned me millionth dollar 1 month ago. Folks, I have the great pleasure of telling you that I've earned me millionth dollar. It's like, how many times can you earn the millionth dollar? Like, it's like, how many times? It's like the same thing. How many times can you completely demine the strait? Like, they haven't gone out there, from what we can tell, and laid any more mines for the past few months. So if they demined it the first time, according to the president's claim, then it was either a lie then, or it was demined. And I'm assuming that since this has been said about 12 times at this point by the president, it probably hasn't been demined, because every time he said this before, the last 11 times, it wasn't demined, and then he came out and said it again, suggesting the last time he said it, it was a lie, and it wasn't demined, and now it's finally demined. So I'm assuming this one's of largely the same caliber. Not to nitpick this stuff every single time, folks, but it's quite annoying to see the same statements made every week, and we have to point out that they're made every single week, and because of that, it's incredibly unreliable, because there's nothing else that we can do with these sorts of statements. But we also were able to hear that apparently the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, told U.S. allies that the United States does not plan to resume major strikes on Iran for now. And instead, the administration is shifting towards sanctions, the naval blockade, and increasing oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. So we've largely stated that we're not going to be doing anything farther against the Iranians, and we're just going to be hoping that eventually they end up crumbling on their own, which everyone's been hoping for 50 years, and really hasn't resulted in a lot of progress. So we'll have to see if any of that comes into fruition someday. Moving us on out of that, we also got to hear in the northern part of the Red Sea, a UK MTO report that a company's security officer reported a tanker had been struck by an unknown projectile, causing a fire on the vessel on the main deck. By the way, this is 63 nautical miles west of Yanbu. So this is way up in the northern Red Sea. This is actually the most far north we've ever seen an attack yet, because most of the attacks we see are down here within the Bab el-Mandeb. This one's all the way up here, on this area of the Red Sea. So it is, about as the crow flies, about 600 miles away for the most recent attack that we've heard of the Houthis conducting on a ship within the Red Sea or the Bab el-Mandeb. And all crew are safe and accounted for, and no environmental impact was reported. So it appears that the Houthis may be greatly extending their attacks way on up and into the North Red Sea, meaning that passage even up here is not safe via the Suez. We also were able to hear that the Israelis are continuing their bombardments of the Al-Tahrir Heights, but we didn't have any real video and picture evidence of that. It was just disconnected. What the hell? What's going on here?
It needs to reconnect. You said one too many things. You said one too many things. I told you.
Yes. The old police state. Like they're coming in. Moving us on out of that. Sorry, folks, for the brief interruption there. But moving us on out of the Middle East, we also got to hear out of South Korea that the U.S. is making true on its word of cutting down its military involvement with the South Koreans after the president stated that we would do such. The United States has canceled a major joint amphibious landing exercise with South Korea scheduled for next month, citing constraints on U.S. force availability due to the war in Iran. Mind you, by the way, the entire U.S. 8th Army is permanently stationed in South Korea and has remained at the exact same force size that it was before the war in Iran started. So there's absolutely no shortage of troops inside of South Korea's or the U.S. 8th Army to be able to conduct military exercises with. This is just the president still trying to go after the South Koreans because he didn't want to help out with the war in Iran. The exercise, Songyong, is a division-level drill involving U.S. and South Korean forces. The U.S. Marine Corps informed its South Korean counterpart in June that it would not have enough forces available to conduct the exercise as planned. The cancellation comes shortly after the U.S. also scaled back the annual Uchi Freedom Shield exercise, with the president citing its cost and South Korea's refusal to take part in the Iran war. Moving us on out of that little bit of news in South Korea, it's now time for us to finally start moving our way on back around. And you know what? We're actually going to not go around the world to Europe to get back to Russia. We're actually just going to move north to the Amur. Here on the Amur River, right next to the border of China, here near Manchuria, we were able to see something quite fascinating that happened today. The biggest chemical plant in the whole of Russia is out here in the Amur region. It is actually called the Amur Gas Chemical Complex, and it is a key technological component of the complex where ethylene and propylene are produced from hydrocarbon feedstock. The unit has a design capacity of 2.7 million tons a year, making it the biggest one of its type in Russia. The complex is reportedly undergoing commissioning ahead of full-scale commercial operations, and this unfortunate little incident happened there today.
Oh, that's hot.
That's hot. That's hot.
Oh, that's bad.
It's not looking good, I'll tell you.
I wonder how this fire got started.
I really wonder. It is a mystery, you know, I'll tell you. Man, also, by the way, here's a POV of the workers running from the plant while it was blowing up.
Oh, come on now. You can't sound like that running away.
Man, they were sitting there going, man, my collar's blue, but my neck is red. And then the thing blew up and they went, like they started running.
All that Macho Man syndrome went away quickly, I tell you.
Man, I gotta tell you, man, it's not even close to him. You know, it's like, what are you scared about? It's just a giant boiling inferno in the middle of the plant. No, nothing to be scared about if I'm being an ass. But we also get to see another clip of the fire right here, a long while after it started. So it started to turn from that bright fire that we were seeing into just a rolling column of smoke over the whole factory or facility. Oh, that looks awful. That looks like the whole factory's been knocked out. Also, man, what's up with all the charter buses down here? Like, are they having a field trip?
Maybe it's an evacuation. Maybe they're quick with it.
Man, back in the day when they did Chernobyl, man, they whipped out the minibuses. Dude, here they're whipping out the coaches. Bro, like, honestly, man, it's kind of an upgrade for an evacuation. It's like, it's not too bad. I mean, Russia maybe has a little bit left after all, you know? But beyond that, though, this facility looks to have been completely knocked out as a result of this little fire here. And a lot of people are wondering what it's about. But I saw this poll, everyone. I saw this one. I'm going to keep this one in my mind while we move on further west back into the mainland of Russia and the Ukrainian drone attacks. So I'm going to move us north a little bit to get us a little bit of a interesting clip from up here in Yakutsk. A little fun city up here in the middle of nowhere. By the way, let me give you all a street view of this place, Yakutsk. Let me show you all a little something here. I think you can already tell what this place is going to look like from satellite. This doesn't look that great. But let me get you all on the ground just to show you all here. Oh, the old city of Yakutsk. This is, dude, they put the Mexico filter on this thing. My God.
Yes. I feel like a Lenin living here.
Oh, bro, this is downtown. This is the nicest part of the city. And it doesn't look that good. Oh, dude. Yes, I would like to go through the heat piping walkway over the road. That looks wonderful. Let's go look at the houses around here. I wonder if those look pleasant much. Let's find out. Oh!
Ah, yes. Driving home through the mud pit, Bliet.
Man, looks like an old Smimesian mud pit, Bliet. Oh,
Doubles as an outdoor shower.
oh man, folks, we do this every time, not to make fun of how poor the Russians are, because it's quite truly an abject state of poverty that they all live in. But I do it because we need to point out something. Here in America, the Russian propaganda always makes it seem like Russia is the dream, like everyone's living a better life over there, everything's better, the government's efficient, and the U.S. isn't, and that the U.S. is a hellhole to live in. This is what the actual Russian Federation looks like right here. If you drop down on Street View anywhere in Russia, this is average Russia. This is like, and some people will go, well, there's places that look like this in America. Those places are pointed out as the worst place to be in America, not the average. The average place in America is about 10 steps ahead of what an average Russian is living in. And that's because their dictatorial and oppressive government continues to exploit their people for the benefit of a few at the expense of a many, unlike what we do here in the United States. And while we have our flaws, we still have a much better country and a much better government than the Russians could ever hope for. But moving us on out of that little Street View in Yakutsk, the reason why I brought you all up here is because we saw that the fuel shortage isn't only affecting cars, it's now affecting boats. They have a queue here in the city of Yakutsk on the river to get gas for the boats. Now even boat traffic is coming to a stop because of the gas shortage.
And dude looks like a guy. What is this boat right here? Like a floating flip-flop? Did you see that thing right there?
Bro, that's the floating chocolate.
The floating flip-flop. Literally, it looks like one flip-flop.
Man. Man, they got the inflatable chocolate out, bro. They're going to be riding this thing around. Crazy. Also, it's kind of wild that they literally have like a gas station with a literal price lit up in LEDs. On the river? That's kind of weird. I've never seen that.
At least the police are here. I think they're trying to get gas too.
Everybody's trying to get... Is that the Russian military right there? That little dinker right there to the left? Look at that.
Those little dinkers are serious. I've seen people use those things in Louisiana, like to go up literally upstream up a pretty strong current. Those things are serious.
I don't think that one's serious, dude. Look at the glass on that. It's literally like frosted over to a nice brown color. That looks terrible. This thing's like 50 years old, maybe.
That's probably a feature, frosted glass. That's probably like a special ancient Russian secret feature.
Ancient Russian secret. We can frost the glass to shit brown. Like it's a beautiful color. Man, like the rest of Russia.
I can't tell if these guys are having camaraderie or they're on the verge of fisticuffs.
Matt, I literally heard one of the Tarkov Scav voice actors in the background there screaming, listen. Bro, he literally sounds like a Scav from Tarkov. Bro, I've heard that voice line so many times. Oh, yeah, then suck it. Then they start firing at you. That literally sounded like, if y'all ever played Tarkov, y'all know. What a magical place.
I really want the floating flip-flop. Like, I want one of those for Christmas.
If you look at your stocking real hard, Enforcement, you might find one. You might find one.
I have nowhere to put it. I'll put it out in the desert and sit in it.
No, Matthew, you can use it on the Great Salt Lake. You can float around.
And get who knows what from it.
Hey, what's up with all these flies? Like 2 minutes later, oh, like you're literally surrounded by millions of those little flies that are all around the lake. But you could bring it to Utah Lake. That's a better place. Utah Lake, not bad at all. But beyond that, though, a lot of people are talking about the whole thing that went on at that Amur chemical plant, the biggest one in Russia, mind you all, that just spontaneously combusted and exploded today. And what's going on with that? Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so now that we've seen that Russia's largest gas and chemical complex mysteriously exploded today in a way that's hard to explain outside of it being something possibly intentional by somebody, we've also seen over the past week that several major Russian sites that are critical to the war effort have also just randomly exploded out of the blue, and it's starting to look like a concerted campaign instead of just mere coincidence. So what do you think is happening? 76% of the audience said it's a Ukrainian sabotage campaign that's now getting kicked off over the last week, while 11% said it's actually accidents and probably errors, and 6% said it's a U.S. sabotage campaign. And I would tend to believe that Ukraine may be supplementing their drone attacks with on-the-ground operations. It seems to me like this is definitely concerted at this point. We've seen, I would say, 3 to 4 facilities, including the one today, literally explode out of nowhere, and it's so bad it looks like a drone attack, but it's not drones hitting the facility. It's simply a random explosion. So I think this is the beginning of something pretty large, and I'm not sure if Ukraine is getting people inside of Russia to do it, or maybe Ukrainian agents are sneaking across the border to go and conduct this. I'm not sure which method it is, but I think it is the Ukrainians. I'm with the 76%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would be with the 76% as well. I think it is a Ukrainian sabotage campaign because the Ukrainians seem to be quite good at that. They have a very heavy presence as far as in activities and groups inside of Russia, and they've been doing a lot of work as of late to be able to try and grind down the Russian war machine and hopefully bring the war to a sooner finish than later. So I would be with the 76%. And I also saw something, Matthew, in the chat, many Utahns in here spewing vitriol and hatred against Utah Lake. They said, Utah Lake is a shithole. Why, how dare you? It's not at all. I just pulled up the Utah Department of Environmental Quality, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. What the hell? Hold up, what's going on here? Harmful algal bloom. Additionally, E. coli is above safe recreational. Well, honestly, who in the world ever wanted to go to Utah Lake? Utah Lake isn't even that cool. It's a shithole. It's a shithole. It's not even that great a place. Look at it. It's green. What water is naturally green like that? Toxic even, Dangerous, honestly. Like, who would have ever suggested to go to Utah Lake? Whoever said that Matthew ought to get the floating flip-flop and bring it to Utah Lake is a fool. And they ought to be completely canceled and never talked to again, honestly, folks. What a stupid guy, whoever said that.
I was told it was all right. I was told it was all right to get in it by a local.
Well, actually, in all honesty, folks, I'm kind of kidding around. It does depend on kind of the week, because they check for two things at Utah Lake. I think it's algal blooms and E. coli, and if any of those things are present, then they give you a warning to not go to that area of the lake. And apparently, that's present in all of the lake right now, so it's not a good month to go to Utah Lake at the moment. But man, you know what's crazy, man, is that I've been getting so many ads on my Instagram from like the Department of Tourism or something down there in Provo, and they have like these two people. It's like a man and a woman, and they speak in like this little German accent. They're like, "Ah, yes, come to Utah Lake. There's so much fun stuff to do here, and the water's perfectly safe." And it's like, well, apparently, according to the Department of Environmental Quality, it's not. It's like, I don't know what the ads are about. You can show up there and get E. coli. It's like, it's like maybe not a great idea. But also, by the way, folks, like Utah Lake is actually really pretty. Let me see if I can show y'all. This is what the lake looks like when you're just driving by it. It looks quite stunning, especially in the summer, because it's like this turquoise blue, kind of a greenish color. And it's got like a green to it that kind of reminds me of like the waters of Florida a little bit. And then you got the mountains in the background, and they extend on almost into the horizon. So it's really cool to look at when you're down there, but it doesn't look like it's safe to get in, like at least right now. Also, the Salt Lake is really, like, I've heard not great to get in at the moment. But moving us on out of that bit of news out there around Utah Lake and that funny little bit, it's time for us to move on over and back into Western Russia, as we have been able to hear some very interesting developments from the Ukrainian drone attack today, which has produced positive results. Heavy drone attacks were seen in multiple directions, with these red arrows showing the directions of strike UAV movements. We were able to see heavy attack vectors heading towards the Tver, Moscow, Yaroslavl, Vladimir, and Nizhny Novgorod regions. We also saw additional attacks traveling into the Russian Don, with sweeping winds taking the drones further east and into the Volga River basin. We're expecting light showers of Ukrainian bombfall there within the next several hours. We have also been able to see that a slight chance of bombs and hail, or hell more so, has been seen within the Rostov regions and also within the Krasnodar area and Crimea. So if you go out today, folks, in any of those areas, make sure to bring with you an umbrella and a prayer, because you might need both of those things depending on what will be happening here in the future. But unlike the Ukrainians, the Russians don't actually have to worry about the Ukrainians blowing up civilian populations. The Ukrainians have to worry about that every day because the Russians actually go out of their way to do that. On the other hand, that's a very rare thought or a concern inside of Russia, unless if a drone gets interfered with by electronic warfare and then runs astray into a building, which happens occasionally. Moving us on from that drone attack vector news, however, we did get to hear that some of these drones were apparently approaching Moscow from the south, heading towards the Podolsk area, which funnily enough was where the Koledino wildberries was burned down to the ground, as a matter of fact, only about a week ago. And we also were able to see outside of this news that over at Nizhny Novgorod, in the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast, over at the town of Kustovo, the refinery has taken another hit and is burning in the distance quite nicely.
Yes, it is burning quite nicely. It got the medicine.
Did you shambok that refinery? Like, yes, we gave him.
He got the medicine.
We
he
burned him.
he got cooked nicely.
We burned him. Why did you want to burn him? Because he's bastard. But beyond that, though, the refinery is burning quite well. We also were able to see that further on down and in the Tambov region around the town of Kotovsk, down here, we were also able to see the Wildberries facility down here took a nice, beautiful hit as well.
Oh, they're back to wildberries again. They're not letting them get a pass.
Man, they're just kind of going around and taking turns on everyone at this point. It's ozone one day, wildberries the next. The Ukrainians are getting quite a bit of variety, man. Like, they're getting a little bit of ozone layer, a couple of raspberries and blueberries. Honestly, to me, man, it sounds like a nice summer day. You know, a nice ozone layer and a couple of berries. Not bad.
Toasty.
Vukutsna и точка. We also got to see another one of the clips of the explosion. And another. We have a lot of this one. For some reason, folks, whenever wildberries catch on fire, people love to take pictures of them.
Yeah, this right here would have been a perfect thumbnail photo for the backdrop.
Oh man, you know, damn, dude, I didn't think about that. But you know, we should have. But then again, it was kind of getting a little bit mundane though, because I think we've done that several times over. And yeah, it looks like we did it about 3 times over in the past week. So probably we'll save this one maybe for another day. We'll have to remember that. Put a little like marker on that. You know what? Let me color that one differently. I'm gonna give that one the special designation of purple, so that way I know to come back to it for a picture. But moving us on from that, we also were able to see the fire in this clip here. Oh, yeah. And lastly, our final little look at it. That fire right there. Doesn't look like the wildberries is going to be standing long in Kotovsk. We also were able to see that in some other regions of Russia, things were not going all too well. In the area of Novoshetinsk, right outside the town of Shakhty, we were able to see the refineries burning out here. Oh, bleed. They got another. Oh!
Oh! Oh! Man, sound like Chirac.
Man, they got the blicky with the switchy on it. Moving us on out of that. We also got some further clips out of Dagestan. So if you send your kid to Dagestan 3 years and forgot, you need to start remembering. You might need to get them out of there. The ozone down there in Dagestan is still burning quite heavily. And we got this fresh clip, folks, of one of the drones actually hitting the building. There it goes. This guy
that
right
man
here,
barely even flinched. He was trying to hide that flinch so bad.
Man, this guy right here, man, in his head, he's hearing like Mozart's Lacrimosa or something like it. Oh, Lacrimosa.
Hey, hello, darkness, my old friend. Oh, jeez.
He said they're going, oh, man. My life couldn't get any worse. Bro, you probably work there. Like, he's probably looking at his job disappearing right now. Honestly, I would probably be staring blankly into the distance watching the drones blow up as well. But we also got to see another clip of the fire down here on the ozone. Oh, man, it was going badly. It burned the whole facility down, by the way.
Look at everybody gathering out here. It's like when they take you outside of school and they're like, oh yeah, the fire drill. Everybody has to run outside and get in a line and just like pack on top of each other. It's like, that's what they're doing out here, having like a heyday.
Stop, everyone, stop! I gotta take roll! I gotta take roll! Stop laughing! Like, man, like I remember every single fire drill. Oh man. Okay, everyone's gotta leave in alphabetical order. And then you got this like girl named Zebra. She's gonna be the last one out. Like, you know, it's like something like that. It's always like that. I gotta say, folks, we are blessed to have a last name that starts with a B, because we would always be kind of like third or fourth in the line.
Yeah.
Man, our last name has been doxed so many times, man, it won't even matter. Like, honestly,
I want to
man.
pretend like I have privacy still. I want to have the illusion of still having privacy.
Man, I hate to tell you, man, but we're like public figures now. There is no privacy, man. You just got to get ready for it. One day, man, the paparazzis are going to be outside the house. It's just a part of it. You can mess with them, you know. They'll sue you, but you can't mess with them. Like, you know, you can go out there and like shine like a 1,000,000 lumen light in their eyes or something like that if you want to. I mean, some people might say you're an ass for doing that, but also the paparazzi isn't cool, folks. Remember that. Take notes. We also were able to see down at Afipsky, the refinery down here also got hit by a Ukrainian drone attack and was burning nicely. By the way, folks, since I already said the first letter of our last name, I might as well go ahead and tell y'all our last name. Our last name is Brown. So I'm Andrew Brown.
Chill out.
I'm going to leave people on a fake goose chase. They're going to be pulling up Andrew Brown.
Хана. Больше его не будет. Ну, как минимум, в ближайшее время НПЗ точно не заработает.
А это значит, что у нас будет тихо?
Не факт. У нас рядом еще озон.
Fipsky refinery is not going to be running a lot as of late. We also got to hear the Ukrainians hit one ship out in the Black Sea. We'll probably be getting footage of that at some point here tomorrow or the next day. There was also a major fire on an air defense site within the north of the city of Kerch, which we were able to see here on the firm satellite, just northeast of the city of Kerch, which we are still watching and hopefully we'll be getting some video or picture evidence out of here soon. And we also were able to hear that around the Sevastopol area, there was a large explosion in the area. The Ukrainians conducted a Neptune missile attack on the city overnight because of the Russian Zircon hypersonic attack on Kyiv. Now it's time for us to finally move on, folks, and into the news that we have from inside of Ukraine. But to fake y'all out and psych y'all out with a little bit of other news before we get to that, we've been able to hear some updates from Romania and Moldova. Overnight, another RO alert was issued in the Tulcea County, and Spanish F-18s had to be scrambled as a part of the NATO air policing operation to monitor the situation. The radar contacts disappeared at 22:58, or about that would be 10:58, with explosions reported on the Ukrainian side, and there was no violation of Romanian airspace at the time that was reported. We also were able to hear that the air patrols consisted of one F-16 of the Romanian Air Force, a couple of F-18s of the Spanish Air Force, which were not on transponder, and two AH-64E Guardians of the United States Army, which are most likely attached to the Atlantic Resolve Rotational Division, based out of Mihail Cogolesanu here in the central southern part of the Romanian coastline. Moving us on out of that bit of news, we also were able to hear that the Romanian Minister of Defense had to give some words over the course of this day. That is the Romanian Minister of Defense. He said, Romania's Defense Minister, Radu Maruda, says that drone-related incidents have increased significantly, warning that Romania cannot simply become accustomed to them. Maruda said Romanian teams responded to 18 drone-related cases in just 3 days, 4 on Friday, 8 on Saturday, and 6 on Sunday. These were not necessarily 18 drones entering Romanian airspace. The figure includes operations to investigate and recover drone debris and objects, some carrying explosives and others not. He stressed that every alert requires Romanian forces to consider the worst-case scenario, creating a significant burden on military personnel and resources. Maruda also said Romania is in constant communication with Ukraine, including at the diplomatic level, and made clear that he considers the situation unacceptable, stressing that Romania is not a country at war. He added that drone technology is evolving, including their thermal signatures, meaning that solutions that worked against certain drones previously may not always work against newer systems. Certainly does appear that at this moment, the Romanians are still becoming even more increasingly concerned over the drone provocations around their borders by the Russians. We've also seen that along the Moldovan border today, the Russian Federation attacked a border crossing between Ukraine and Moldova, as strikes were conducted on the Vinohradivka-Volkonitsy international border crossing, and has suspended operations due to the shelling by Russian forces. We also were able to hear a little bit further information that this is the first time that the Russian Federation is conduct a bombing or an attack on a Moldovan-Ukrainian border crossing, making it a first of its type in the history of the conflict. Moving us on out of that news, we have been able to also hear in Kyiv some very significant developments from the government of Ukraine over this day. Unfortunately, Kyiv was hit by several Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles over the course of this night by the Russian Federation, which then made the Ukrainians respond by conducting a Neptune missile attack against the city of Sevastopol in Crimea and military targets based around that area. We have also been able to hear that allegedly, according to Financial Times journalist Miller, Ukraine had agreed to the United States urging the Ukrainian government to temporarily refrain from attacking not only Moscow, but also St. Petersburg and the northern regions of Russia during the CIA director's visit. We don't know how credible that is. I mean, there was a drone alert around Moscow just recently, so we don't know how credible of a statement this is at the moment by the Financial Times. We've also been able to hear that the Ukrainians have been made aware of some aspects and issues that were discussed in Moscow by the CIA director, and they stated that it is an important operation, the preparation for which has been taking place in silence for some time. Its results may have significance for further processes. We also then heard additional information about the Ukrainians finally getting some Patriots, in which the Ukrainian president did not disclose which country supplied them or how many were delivered. He only stated, "I can't say how many, but not many, and we need more." And Matthew says it's the French. But Matthew, the French don't operate the Patriot. They operate the Saint-Petit.
France said they were going to transfer some stuff to them a few days ago, and all of a sudden they said they got them.
But Matthew, the French don't even have a Patriot. They only have the
They
Saint-Petit.
could just be a conduit.
Oh, well, that is... It could be the Germans. I mean, the Germans operate the Patriots.
That could be who it is, possibly.
Could be the British.
Could be the British. It could be. Oi, Gavin, you want some air defense?
Would you like some air defense, Governor? Like, man, would you like some?
We're gonna give you a few missiles to gnaw on.
Would you like a missile? Would you like a missile in this trying time? Man, we're really starting to bury this one. But beyond that, in addition, Kyiv has received Krytal air defense systems, and missiles for them, as well as AIM missiles to intercept Russian missiles. So, it does appear the Ukrainians have finally gotten a little bit of something, but according to the Ukrainian government, it's not a great deal. We've also been able to hear that the Ukrainian government has divulged further financial and supply difficulties that they're still having. The Ministry of Defense has already used all the funds that were allocated until the end of the year, and now the army is in a deficit of $27 billion, according to the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine also urgently needs 300 Patriot missiles, he then added as well. So we do understand that the Ukrainians are also running into some budgetary concerns with their armed forces. They are running heavily over budget because of the ongoing war, and that they also need further air defense missiles. But moving us on out of that bit of news in Kyiv, hopefully we'll be able to see that that somehow is turned around, but it sounds like some challenging times ahead in terms of finance and also capabilities for the armed forces of Ukraine. We have been able to see the location unknowns, and that is nothing like, folks, starting it off with a wonderful Russian clip. This is the army team. Let's see how he did. Meanwhile, the Russians at the RPG training range.
Oh no! I can tell by the way. Oh my god! Oh my god, man! That legitimately just like sent an adrenaline spike through me. Oh my gosh! How the hell do you even do that,
dude? Have you seen this before?
Oh yeah, no, I haven't actually. It's the first time I've ever seen this. First time you're telling me.
I saw this earlier today, man, when I was putting this together, and I'm not gonna lie, dude. Even in the midst of me in dead silence, just like grinding through putting all the news together, when I saw that happen, I went, "Oh, look at this dude!" I like absolutely jumped out of my seat.
Holy crap!
Oh
like how the okay, so when he was holding it the first time, I was like, something's off. I was like, he's standing crooked or something. Like, but how the hell did he go from aiming it into a field at the ground at his feet?
I don't even know, man. Look at this.
Долбоёб, сука, тупорылый, отходи!
It was a negligent discharge. A dude grabbed the trigger when he just tried to reposition his hold on it.
Let's watch that again. I really got to figure that out, man.
Stupid.
Oh my god. That is, you know, man, honestly, I think the round may have misfired because if you hear it here, listen to this first part. You hear like these little clicks, like he may be pulling the trigger. I think it's the fact he pulled the trigger of this thing slow burn like the primer or something, and then the primer actually lit the actual rocket propellant, and then it fired off when he aimed it to the ground. He was like, hey, it must be at that. It fired off into the ground. Just listen to the rocket, man. Like, the rocket motor also, like, activates after it kind of, like, pops out of the tube for a second. Like, watch. Like, see? See?
Yeah, he's lucky the thing apparently wasn't armed or it didn't go off or something.
Man, bro, look at him run afterwards, too.
Долбоёб, сука, тупорылый, отходи! Ты чё, ебан?
Man.
Damn, they don't have like a bunker or any type of protective like ditch or anything they can jump in. There's in a wide open field.
Man, the Russians said, well, what type of high-tech training field do we have? Oh, yes, the field. Bro, it's like, you might as well just go to, like, a farmer's field and conduct army training there. It's like, that wouldn't be any different. But let's watch this one more time, folks, completely uninterrupted, to really appreciate it.
Долбоёб, сука, тупорылый, отходи! Ты чё, ебан?
Oh, man. Nothing will beat the
Dummy.
Gatling gun video, though.
Honestly, man, I think I've really never seen videos out of the Ukrainian military of anything quite like this happening. Like the errors that the Russians make are like world class. Like you would have to literally. I mean, I think you could put like a layman out there and they wouldn't do something like that.
I don't think so, man. I don't think they would. It's unbelievable what the Russians can do, man. They could do all kinds of crazy stuff. We also got to see this interesting clip here of the Russians pulling out their Wunderwaffe. At the end of the Second World War, the Germans came up with this concept of wonder weapons, as they're called in English, possibly turning the war around in their favor, although it was completely unwinnable by that point, and thus by using the Wunderwaffe, they would be able to create acts of wonder, turning the war back in their favor. Thus, the name Wunderwaffe has existed throughout most of history since then. It appears that the Russians have created what we can call the anti-aircraft equivalent of Der Wunderwaffe, in this little abomination here, of a truck that is mounted with so many damn machine guns, they could shoot down an enemy aircraft in World War II if it came close enough.
And the ironic part is they'll still miss everything. They'll expend 6 times the ammo.
The ironic part is they have a higher chance of friendly firing themselves on the back of this truck than they do taking down anything that's flying at them.
Man, Russian logic is, let's increase the inefficiency of the system and that will fix it.
Man, look at this, man. Like, this guy's got 3 machine guns here. This guy in the middle's got 1 machine gun here mounted on a central mount. And then the guy in front of him also has 3 machine guns. If you put that together, folks, that is 7, and I repeat 7, NSVs on 1 truck. 7 NSVs. 14.7 millimeter machine guns.
If they start firing every single one of these things simultaneously, this thing's gonna be like a fireworks show going off. They fire all this off simultaneously, and they legit will not hit a thing. Like, I can promise you, they're not gonna hit anything.
You know, it just hit me, Matthew. Kind of like it's about to hit these guys. If they all aim their guns at a 90-degree angle off the left or the right of this truck, the recoil might be strong enough to actually flip the little truck over if it's not heavy enough.
Yeah, maybe so.
That, man, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I want to watch that one day. But moving us on out of that, we also got to see the Russian casualty report, which was something. Oh, Briaga, 7 Bobcats. Holy moly.
Oh, that's nasty.
Blee. Over the course of the past 24 hours, Ms. Disa, keeper of the records, said Russian losses to August 25th of 2026, day 1644. Is MLRS's highest monthly total is 82 for August to date, matching June total. 10 ground robotic complexes is tied as the 10th highest daily loss, and GRC, August total, will exceed July. And autos and fuel tanks may also be the highest month with its 6 days remaining. It's a beautiful month, folks. 1,230 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed. 9 APCs have been knocked out, 48 artillery systems destroyed, 2 MLRSs, 1 air defense system, 1,555 drones, 10 ground robotic complexes, 448 supply trucks, and 7 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, not a bad day, and hopefully we'll see that this brings the war to a sooner conclusion than a later one. Moving us on out of those casualty reports right there, it's now time for us to move on down into Lugansk, Bliad. We were able to see a large explosion within the city of Lugansk, created by Ukrainian attack.
Ребят! Ты туда? Сейчас я с тобой полезу.
But shouting across the whole town, lady, you're waking everybody up.
Man, they explode, and then everyone's like, finally, I can get some sleep. And then they hear this lady, hey, did you see that big explosion over there?
Shut up and sit down. Honestly, I think you sound Russian. That sounded German there for a minute. Actually, you might want to sit your head down.
I asked Paris to surrender $5. like you must have got on the deal. Sadly, folks, I don't know what was up with today. I hate to tell y'all, but we didn't have a single clip that came out of the Ukrainian front lines today. I don't know what it was with that. It was an enigmatic day in that regard. That we had nothing to cover from the front lines. So the front lines were inactive as we could report today, but I did check Deep State, and it appears that the Russians made no advances of the past 24 hours. So largely we understand that the front is stable, and whatever has resulted in the past 24 hours, the Ukrainians have held the line and inflicted large casualties onto the Russian armed forces based off of the casualty report that we just saw. Moving us on from that, we also were able to see that unfortunately within the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, in the town of Pischanka, there was unfortunately a major ammunition detonation after the Russians were able to hit a ammunition storage facility of the armed forces of Ukraine near to the town, which then resulted in a critical chain reaction explosion at the ammunition depot, which not only destroyed the depot, but appears to have destroyed the surrounding municipal area. Here's the short clip that we got of that ammunition explosion.
Oh, yikes.
A pretty bad one. We do not know the extent of the damage yet, and we have also not been able to get any reports from the Ukrainian government as to the number of wounded or killed resulting from the ammunition explosion, but it appears to have been devastating to the surrounding area, as we could see in the clip. But moving us on out of that little bit of video evidence from the Dnipropetrovsk area of that unfortunate ammunition explosion, we actually do not have a speech to cover from the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, today. And that rounds out our news segment over the course of the past 48 hours here on day 1644 of the war. And that's going to be moving us on, folks, and into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And I got to say that it is an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to run the stream for each and every single one of y'all. We have had here at the peak tonight 22,000 people. And 105,000 people have watched this stream just in the first hour, 2 hours and 20 minutes alone. And we are always entirely honored and greatly appreciative to know that so many of y'all have been here enjoying the stream tonight. And I hope that our news has been very insightful, very well researched, very well analyzed, and that we've also been able to throw in a little bit of humor in the meantime as well to make the news a little bit more digestible. But with that in mind, folks, it's time for us to move on into that second segment where we get to talk to all of y'all who have been watching so far tonight, and hopefully have a whole bunch of interesting moments and conversations to go from here. And so, without further ado, Matthew, what do we got here?
All right, so it's time. It is time now for the super chats, the live chats, and the Morse code decoders of the stream. It is time for the most anticipated part of the stream. Some people say, sir, we really have to have those questions. We want questions. We actually don't like questions. We don't like to be questioned. It's a strange thing to be questioned. It's like they're doubting. It's not a good thing. Doubt. It's doubt. That's what they call it, sir. But we love the questions. We love the questions. They're so cute, the questions. But anyway, so in all seriousness, though, it's time to start off with our first super chat of the last segment, which goes to none other than a channel legend. It is a BC Skyman. And thank you very much, BC Skyman, for that $70 super chat right there between two different super chats. And we do appreciate it very, very much. And he did not leave a comment between the two. He left the super stickers, though. And in the super stickers, let me go back and take a look. He got the YouTube controller creature jumping around saying super effective. And he's got the YouTube Doge creature holding the number 1 right there, really exuberantly. But we do appreciate that, BC Skyman, as always. The biggest support of the night. And Enforcer, what say you?
And BC Scammon, I gotta say, we appreciate you greatly. I hope that your wrist is still recovering well, and also we thank you so much for being here tonight and supporting the channel and helping this thing to keep on running. Because it is folks like you who have been a rock and pillar of the LSA for years, quite literally basically since the start of the show. 4.5 years ago, I think at this point, we have been able to keep this thing running thanks to amazing folks like you. And we've got to thank you greatly once again for the incredible support tonight and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would have never been able to make this thing a reality, and we wouldn't be able to keep making it a reality in the here and the now. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And also, BC Scam, I hope your arm and wrist are recovering. I remember you saying that your wrist got messed up really badly from the fall. But also, I hope your arm's doing as good as well. Luckily, I gotta say, luckily, I've never really broken anything. I remember when Matthew was little, I think he broke his arm, but he was really little when that happened.
Yeah.
I forgot what that was about.
I actually just really sprained it really badly. I fell off like the bars you climb across at the play yard. I fell off of those. It was a whole thing. I got jacked up bad from that. And also, I sprained my like leg or ankle or something at some point. I legit couldn't walk, and I had to be carried everywhere. It was horrible.
Man, honestly, man, I've never well, I probably broke my nose, but that wasn't really known about at the time because my like if y'all ever look at me, and I don't mean to point out imperfections where you'll notice them now or look at them whenever I'm on camera, but my nose is actually a little bit curved. I forgot which direction it's in. I don't look at that too much, but it's slightly curved a little bit, and it used to not be that way until I had like a bike wreck, a really bad one when I was in kindergarten and knocked a whole bunch of teeth out and like ripped the sides of my mouth open and like left that big scar on my nose. And it looks like it may have broken my nose as well because it kind of like set back crooked, and nobody ever caught maybe that it was broken because it was never crooked before then, and then it became a little bit crooked afterwards. So hey, I got a nose of a
So
politician.
you're a crooked
Like,
YouTuber.
yeah. Man, I got a crooked spine, a crooked nose. Hey, look, folks, I'm going into politics. Vote for me. Beyond that, though, luckily I don't think I've ever really broken anything. Rather than like ripping my mouth open and all that. So I've luckily never had to go through that sort of experience, but I hope that you're still on the mend and recovering from that because that's got to be rough to deal with, and I bet it's probably painful too to have a broken bone. I can only assume. I've never actually had one, sadly, but I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Nonetheless, BC Scamming is still being here, and I hope that we're helping you to pass that hours and helping you to recover right as rain as quickly as possible. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Two Shoes, and thank you, Two Shoes, for that support. It's like the cousin of Two Chains or something, but they put in a 25. We do appreciate that. They said, in regards to the U.S. and Canada trade dispute, the U.S. has said that Lake Ontario should be renamed Lake America. Oh, great. Obviously, this is ridiculous. The only acceptable rename would be Lake Enforcer. They'll just leave it, Lake Ontario. They'll just leave it Lake Ontario and take their incompetent asses, they ought to just leave it named what it is. I'll just leave it at that. But Enforcer, what say you?
Geography in the future is going to be so confusing because of this dumb idiot who's in charge. Everything's going to be called America. It's going to they're going to call the continent of North America, and then Canada is going to be called North America, and then the United States is just going to be called America, which sits next to the Gulf of America, the North American Ocean, the North American Ocean, and also happens to rest on the North American continent. Then below that you have South America, which is Mexico, which is north of South America, which is a continent. Then you have America, Brazil, and then you also have the American Sea, the Gulf of America, and a whole bunch of other Americas. Europe is actually going to be called Euro-America here in the future, and then Eurasia will be called Asia America here in the future as well. Of course, that would just make sense.
It's on brand, all image, no show. It's on brand to start renaming stuff all over the place. It's been named certain stuff for ages. It's like if you can't accomplish anything in a material way that actually makes a difference, and just start renaming shit and hope that makes a difference.
Oh, by the way, I don't mean to add this kind of stuff here in the channel, but I don't know if you heard today, Matthew, but apparently it's been said that the legal team around the JFK Center has said that if the name of the president can't be added as a part of the renovations, of course, because it has to be added, then the whole JFK Center might be demolished instead.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that also allegedly too.
Well, it was according to the I believe the Wall Street Journal that put that out today. But the claim is that the building needs major renovations, and the name change is just a part of it. And so, if the name change can't go through, then the funding appropriation for the rest of the renovations can't either. And because the building is in such a derelict state, it'll have to be demolished. So basically, it's slap the name on and the building's saved, and if not, we'll just demolish it. Seems to be the approach, according to what's being said at the moment, allegedly. But it's also the whole deal with the aircraft carrier as well, possibly naming it after him, in a battleship as well. It's like doesn't, I gotta ask, doesn't this guy have other names rather than America and himself? Can't something be named, if anything's going to be named differently? I'm just wondering.
I'm just saying, but people that are actually effective at what they do could really care less about a name. They're more concerned with the results of what they're doing more than the image of it. Usually when somebody's way too focused on image, they're trying to compensate for something. You know how it goes. People that are big on bragging about themselves and stuff like that. It's they're trying to compensate for something. Like they may know or may not know that skills are lacking. So it's like instead of realizing, oh, this person's an idiot. No, no, look over there, look over there. It's like we run into this, that. I was like, oh gosh, it's like just to stop all the BS. It's like I think most people just want to simply have the BS stop and just have some actual results for once and just shut the hell up. It's like all this yapping, all this renaming. It's like all this junk. It's like stop all this junk. It's like nobody cares. Like that most people could give a crap.
Man, I remember, man. Like, honestly, man, I remember when Abraham Lincoln, one of our greatest presidents, mind you, folks, got shot at Ford's Theater, and they had to drag him, his dying body, over to the house across the street. And he was in there, and they created the first air conditioner for him and all that. And while he was in there and he was having his last days and he was largely comatose, he woke up out of the blue, folks, just out of the blue. And he said, oh, and they said, Mr. President. And he went, I have to tell you something very important. My whole life, I've just been living for myself. When after I die, you'll have to build this sick-ass monument down there at the end of Washington, D.C. Call it after me and put a big giant statue of me in it. That's all my life is amounted for. And name everything after me. And then he died. And then they went on to build the Lincoln Memorial. You know, I think every president's done that, honestly, when you think about it, man. I think if I remember right, I think George Washington said everything had to be named after him, if I'm not mistaken, when he was president as well. I think this is just the norm, right? You know, for a president to come into the office and name quite literally every single moving, living thing on the planet after themselves. Isn't that normal?
Yeah, it's just really something. It's just, it's tiring. I'll be honest. I'm so tired of it. Like just every time you open up the news and you look at it, and what you did these days, I try to like gather the news myself, so that way I'm not having to look at all the BS headlines. But you open it up and you see stuff like that, like it's renaming something, it's doing this, it's doing that. It's like there's a trail of destruction, and then through the trail of destruction, there's a whole bunch of like distractions along the way. It's like it's just silly.
Yeah, and also then, and also what's going to be funny, folks, is that someone's going to come in here with us complaining about something that's reasonable, and then they're going to go, "Oh, TDS." It's like, well, I would have complained about this though if Biden did it. Like if there was like a
Hell,
USS
even
Biden floating around, I'd be like, "That's stupid as hell. Why was that done?"
hell, even the syndrome's named after him.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, It's like,
Even the syndrome, it's like it couldn't even be independent.
it couldn't be like political derangement syndrome, like PDS or something. It had to be Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, oh my god, like, oh man, it just keeps going. It just keeps going too. Like, and then he also has like, what is it, man? It's like the expedited visa. It's like the Trump visa. Like you can pay $5 million and get in the country quick and easy, or
Yeah, I
something.
don't know. Who knows?
Like, let me go, let me go, let me go pull it up. I think it has a space on it. Oh, let's see. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, look, the Trump Gold Card Visa.
Yeah.
Man, it's something. But yeah, man, yeah. but anyways, with that, a big thanks to your support. Number this channel to keep them running, two shoes. And honestly, I just stay Lake Ontario. I'm getting tired of the stupid renames that this guy's doing, and he just happens to rename everything to America, which is really stupid, really confusing, and has really no historical precedent. Just keep it Lake Ontario. I don't even understand the stupidity of renaming something like that's going to do something. Oh, that's really going to get the Canadians renaming a lake. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, someone else said, "Well, what about that healthcare plan named after that other president?" He didn't name it that. It's called the Affordable Care Act, and they nicknamed it the other thing. So he didn't insist it was called his stuff. But anyway, so jumping into our next one here, this one goes to none other than Gregory Albright, who put in a 20. And thank you very much, Gregory, for the $20 support. He said, "Best treehouse."
Treehouse? Where? Like, where? Where's the treehouse? Well, if you call on this channel a treehouse, we're honored. There ain't not a lot of trees out here in Utah, unless you go up in the mountains. There ain't a lot of them out here, but I'd say that's an honor to say that this is the best treehouse. And we thank you greatly for that support and help with this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so humongous thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Cerberus3. And thank you very much, Cerberus, as well, for that $20 support. We do appreciate that. Cerberus said, to enforcers for delivery, great work, and LSA community for being awesome. And enforcers in chat, what do you think about Supreme Court's recent ruling on voting? I could be wrong, but I thought the state decides their rules, not the executive. I haven't seen that ruling, but it is up to the states to actually conduct the elections. I think they can set federal rules and such here and there, but the states have to actually conduct it. That's why there's a whole department for elections in each state. So it varies depending on the state, and that's why it gets complicated when it comes to elections and how that's done. But I think I know what you're referring to. I think it's the way a ballot is delivered, I think, is what you're referring to. And I'm not totally sure if that's a federal thing that can be regulated at a federal level. I think it has to be done on a state level, I think. I don't know for certain, though. But Enforcer, what say you?
Yeah, the states are responsible for the voting, but there's also some things that they can't do, like for example, poll taxes, and also like tests to be able to be eligible to vote. There's things like that you can do at the state level, but generally they're the ones who get to manage the elections because the states are the ones who have primacy when it comes to federal and state elections. All of the elections are run at the state level in every state, and that's also something that I think is a bit of a goofy argument these days because some people are acting like that's an outrage. It's like, well, for the whole history of the country, that's been done at the state level. So, it's like, it's kind of goofy to me that people are complaining about. It's like that's literally the way you voted for everybody, whether you like them or not. So it seems to have worked well so far. It's like, why in the world should that be a power stripped from the state and given to the federal government is beyond me. And also seems to be federal overreach to the extreme, in my honest opinion. But I do thank you greatly for the support and help this channel to keep running. But I personally don't know a lot about the Supreme Court ruling, or what it is about all too much because I generally avoid the whole domestic politics side of things as best as I can, as much as I can, because it is a cesspit on all ends these days. But a huge thanks to you for the support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a $20 super chat from Marion Deemer. And thank you very much, Marion, for that 20 right there. And we do appreciate it very much as well. And I was just double checking here. I don't think Marion left a comment, and I don't think she did, but we do appreciate it once again. And Enforcer, what say you?
And a big thanks to you for the support, Marion Deemer. And while you didn't throw in a comment, your support is greatly appreciative. And it helps us to keep this thing running every day. And of that, we are greatly thankful for. And so a huge thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have one from Justin who put in a 20, and thank you, Justin, as well for that support. He said, no comment, just thanks. And take one from the chat from me, and thumbs up, and I think that's New Zealand, I think, or Australia?
It's Australia.
Oh, yeah, Australia. I see in New Zealand, I'm just trying to pull their leg a little bit.
You're about to get us canceled for like, get him! Like, man, it's like, no.
But you see, it looks similar.
They do look similar though. It's literally just a difference in between the color of the stars. Basically, I think one of them has white stars and one of them has red stars on the flag. That's the only difference. But beyond that though, a big thanks to you for support, Justin, and helping this channel to keep on running. We're incredibly thankful for you and have nothing but thanks to say to you for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, it is time for us to take one from the chat in ya Anna. So what do we got, Matthew?
And the one from the chat is going to go to Santa Fe Railroad, who said, do you think Putin is stopping at the Donbass and he won't try a Ukraine regime change?
I think he's going for everything. It's an all or nothing approach that they have. And while they might have been willing to go for that previously, that was only an attempt to be able to try and pause the war, get all of the sanctions lifted against them, and then go at it again once they were ready. I think at this point, they're in such a desperate position or state as a country that they're now going for an all or nothing approach of achieving everything or achieving nothing. And so a huge thanks to you for the support and help this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that incredibly well. And I see BC Skyman here. You got the same opinion I've got on the names. If it was named something when I was a kid, it's that name forever. The Gulf of Mexico is the Gulf of Mexico. Mount McKinley's Mount McKinley. Lake Ontario is Lake Ontario. Fort Benning's Fort Benning. On and on and on. Like, I don't like this renaming stuff. I think it's dumb. It's like,
yeah,
who cares about the intention behind why it was named? If it's that name and it's been that way for hundreds of years, it's just that way. That's how it is.
Yeah, it's like, wasn't there an outrage a long time ago or a short while back about renaming stuff because they were trying to like remove history or something like that? Now we're going to start renaming stuff because it looks like better to call it Gulf of America. It's like, it's silly. It's like really, it's like, does this conversation even need to be had? It's like, no, it's like we have much more pressing issues than what something is named. That's like the least important thing ever. And they're focusing on it like it's important.
Yeah, it's so dumb, man. It's like, I remember folks back in the day, and I honestly thought it was a fair remark when they started to rename all of the military bases throughout America to make them politically correct, and it was like, this is stupid. It's always been Fort Benning. It's like, well, yeah, it has always been Fort Benning. It's like, I think that's stupid. It's like, I don't even really care particularly who it was named after. It's like, if the base has been there for 150 years and it's been named Fort Benning the whole time, it's Fort Benning. That's just what it is. And then, nowadays we come around to it being swinging around to the other side politically, and then, oh, you're a damn liberal if you don't like it being renamed the Gulf of America. It's like, I don't even remember this being a political argument until the president did it, and then everyone acts like it's been something everyone's wanted for 100 years. It's like, nobody even cared until he did it, and then now it's becoming a hill for these people to die on. It's like, that doesn't even make any sense.
It's like if you're talking to somebody like that you're friends with or something like that, and they're talking about something really serious, like, I went through some serious trauma. And then you jump in the conversation out of the blue and you're like, well, the sky's blue today. The sky sure does look nice. Ballroom. It's like they were talking about something serious. We got serious issues we're handling here, and you're jumping off to something stupid that's like irrelevant. It's like, it's just really absurd.
Mr. President, what do you think about the passing of those soldiers in the war against Iran? That was awful. Anyways, the ballroom, we're getting beautiful chandeliers. They're the best chandeliers ever. It's like, boy, that really gives off Marie Antoinette. Like, that's really, eating, leaving no crumbs. Like, whatever the Gen Z kids are saying.
Cake in their mouth.
Oh, man. And then basically that's what they said, a little piece of chicken and broccoli. It's like, yeah, I've heard of that before.
But I can't afford cake.
Well, actually, these days they would go, well, we understand that you can't afford a cake, but whenever you can afford cake and you're, eating whatever the government gives you, which is slop, you need to thank Daddy Trump for letting you eat slop because, you gotta be thankful. You gotta be thankful.
Now, a word from our special people. What color is your Bugatti? You get your hustle up. What color is your Bugatti? They're either crooked or they're stupid. They're crooked or It's like, oh my God. It's a clown show.
Oh, man, it's like, geez, Louise, man. It's like it's so dumb these days. Like, and what's crazy, folks, is that some people in the chat have been going off. Like, we've had two of them, and they think it's like cool, but it's like it's honestly sensitive looking because someone just sat there earlier when I was like, no, it's the Gulf of Mexico, and I have that rule for everything. If it's named whatever it was, it just is what it is. I don't care who's trying to change the name. It is what it is. And then you damn demascum. It's like, how the hell do you know what I am politically? I just don't support the stupid political BS, like the dumb stuff that doesn't really do anything for anyone. Like, what did renaming the Gulf of America do for these people for them to be so defensive about it? Like, it literally has done nothing.
Their cult. They live, eat, breathe, and they love the cult. You can't speak against it. How dare you?
Man, I remember, man, when the name change was first made, some of the like diehard people immediately stuck to this theory that, oh, because it was named the Gulf of Mexico, Mexico got special rights to do whatever they want. So now that we've renamed it the Gulf of America, it's giving us the special abilities to drill for oil. It's like, have these people ever heard of international law, international maritime law, and exclusive economic zones? It's like, that's not how that works. It's like the Persian Gulf doesn't give the Iranians complete authority over the Persian Gulf. It's just named that. It's like, what are these people talking about? I don't even know. It's like literally pulling at straws.
And also, if you like the new name, like Gulf of America, it's like, fair enough. Like, if you like it, you like it. But and the only problem I have is when people go berserk about it. Like, if someone's like, yeah, who cares about the name? And then people are like, oh, you're clearly like that other side. It's like, okay, it's like, how's your meat prices at the store, by the way? How's the meat prices doing? It's like, how's your rent price doing, by the way? How's your mortgage rate doing and stuff like that? How about all this stuff? Like, the stuff that actually matters instead of the name in the Gulf. It's like, how's all that going? How's the housing supply? Like, is that going good? How's the global situation? Is the wars gone away? Like, no more war? It's like, I'm just like calling it. We're just calling it how it is, really. It's like, if there's no results to be had, there's no results to be had. It's not a political thing. You either have results or you don't.
Man, but man, they might not have results, and everything still might be more expensive than it was 2 years ago. But boy, howdy, that Gulf got a renaming on the map. And while it changed absolutely nothing at all, that's all that mattered. Like, that's all that mattered. That's the hill we're going to die on. And it's only been renamed for us, by the way. Everyone else in the world still calls it the Gulf of Mexico. It's just here in America, the maps have been changed to call it the Gulf of America. That's literally all that's been done. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to move on and into the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to none other than Give Up Now 000, who put in a
Hey!
$50 support. And thank you very much, Give Up Now, for that generous 50 right there and helping to keep the channel running with that nice support. They said, Year of the Goat coming. Gonna see the Great Northern Goat. Northern Montana was famously shaped by the Great Northern Railway. And thanks, guys, for nurturing this community. I feel diverse.
Yeah! Great Northern! Yes! Okay, cool. I finally get to bring up a railroad. The Great Northern. What a cool railroad. Honestly, the Milwaukee Road and the Great Northern were cool railroads. You didn't bring up the Milwaukee Road, so I really don't have a segue to get to this one, but I'll show y'all a quick picture of the Hiawatha. Beautiful steam engine. But beyond that, though, the Great Northern. What a railroad. What a beautiful railroad. The Great Northern, by the way, would eventually merge with the Burlington and Quincy to create the Burlington Northern, which, in my opinion, has one of the best paint schemes that a railroad has ever had. But the Great Northern was no slouch. It actually had the Empire Builder, which went from Chicago, down here, all the way to Seattle, across the northern part of the United States, which is probably one of the most scenic Amtrak rides you can take these days, because the Empire Builder actually still runs as an Amtrak service once daily, leaving Seattle and Chicago every single day, heading in the opposite directions. So a really cool sort of a thing to be able to ride. I want to ride it one day, and let me see, folks, if I can show y'all one of the cooler things. Oh, here's the last paint scheme that they had, folks, before they went out of before they merged with the Burlington Railroad. This is, I think, called the ice paint scheme or the glacial blue paint scheme. Baller. The orange one they had was pretty good too, but I really like this ice blue or glacier blue paint scheme. It just looks so good. Like, I don't know what it was. I just really like it, and it blends in with that area very well.
You got to make your paint scheme really airtight. You're either crooked or you're stupid. You're crooked or stupid. And you got to make those paint schemes real nice. You got to make sure that they can't check it. They don't want them checking. It's hustle muscle. That sounds like a great train right there. Hustle. You got to have that hustle. Been hustling since I was a kid. That's what they say, sir. Out there in the streets. I was not in the streets, but I'm gonna pretend like I was in the streets. It's a hustle, and you got to have muscle.
Muscle, muscle. We love those big muscles on those big burly men. Not such in any way for me to say that. Like, by the way,
Look at this nice guy out here in the audience, man. Look at this nice guy. It's like it's not odd whatsoever to stop a rally to say, "Look at this nice young man." It's like that's not a good thing to say, sir. You need to stop saying that.
I'm the manliest man that's ever existed. Now look at this guy out here with those perfect glutes, big butt, nice butt, really great butt. Like, it's like, what the hell?
The young kids call it caked up. That's what they call it, sir. Caked up. And we're not talking about sheet cake. We're talking about something totally new, something totally different, something that people have been talking about for a long time, but they haven't put a name to it.
I got it. You know, folks, no one knows construction more than me. Nobody knows construction. I've seen a lot of dump trucks in my life, and that man out there, he's got one hell of a dump truck. God. Man. But beyond that, outside of that, though, what do you think of this paint job, though? This is like the Great Northern's kind of like standard paint job rather than the hustle muscle thing. You like it?
It looks like something that a home improvement store would have.
The Home Depot?
Just any home improvement store.
I don't think Lowe's has got this. They're not going to sue you if you say that, by the way, man. You can just say it's the Home Depot.
No, I don't know about it.
And this blood's so scared to get sued. When you say Home Depot, man, Home Depot's going to give us a cease and desist. We do not look like the Great Northern. Get that out of your mouth. We're going to get on here and make an apology. We're so sorry, everyone. It doesn't look like that. But I really do like their paint job. I think it looks pretty cool. And you know, folks, this paint job right here kind of still exists these days. In their successor railroad that is still running today, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which actually still runs up there on Great Northern treks through northern Montana. Pretty cool thing. But still, I gotta say, Great Northern is a neat railroad. And the railroading history of Montana is a fascinating one. Nowadays, it's all UP and BNSF, but back in the day, it was quite varied, and it was really, really cool. Still is, honestly. The scenery up there is unbelievable, especially through the mountains in the west part of the state. Unheard of sort of stuff to see. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again for that support and helping me to rabbit hole there for a minute on trains. I haven't been able to do that for a while. Give up now. And give up now. I just remembered something. One more rabbit hole to get to here. I actually got done, folks, weathering another rail car yesterday. Another one. on my off day. I'm dedicated to doing one a day on my off day. I'm going to show you all this one. I'm going to send it to Matthew in the DMs. He's already seen it, and he said that it was one of his favorites so far. Considering that he's not really that big into it, I'm going to show it to y'all and let y'all see what y'all think. If Discord loads on my phone, so that way I can do this here real
Are you a
quick.
fan of the cult of Matt?
What's the politically correct answer to give to that?
The honest one.
It's all right. It's okay.
That's not the right answer.
Okay. Well, apparently there was a wrong answer. Okay. So now we got into the
We'll
bottom
give the
of it.
right answer.
And what's the right answer?
You say it.
Yeah, sure. I'm a fan of the cult of Matt. What for?
We love this guy. He's got great trains. He knows how to weather up and rust up a train car. He knows how to make it look real grimy, grimier than myself. It's really something. It's hard to make something look grimier than me. It's a tough thing, but you can do it if you're a trained person or whatever. I don't know where I'm going with that. I was leaving there. Show him that rust.
Man, show him that rust. Bruh. So this is kind of like my inspiration for it a little, these sorts of grain hoppers. I'm sure y'all have seen them if y'all ever seen a train pass by. They're usually on manifest trains quite often. So I have a hopper like that, and I went, wow, that would be really cool if I made one kind of look like that. So I got to work, folks, and this is what I came up with right here. This is the end result. Exhibit 1. This is my first attempt at doing the weathered grain hopper look. I even made it look like they sprayed on the logos again. I just put masking tape on that to do that, so not really difficult to do. But I did do quite the job. I also love what I did with the roof. I mean, not to brag or nothing, but I made the walkways look like they had different little splotches of rust on them, and then made one of them look like they were completely replaced up there on the top side. You can see it up there. And I also put rust on the hatches up top and all of that. And then this is the opposite. Well, actually, that's not the opposite side. This is all the same side. But then I took a picture of the opposite side right here, and I actually put it on my little track, like my test layout, where I keep all my test stuff. You can see my L&N crap in the background.
Looks good from the back. They said, sir, you gotta look at that backside, sir. It's a nice train right there. It's a nice train. I'm going to stop right there because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep it PG, but we're going to have to let it go right there. Sir. Wow, sir.
It looks so grimy and rusty. It's terrible looking. It looks like shit. Like it does, but that's
Man,
the whole
he's
point.
on the toilet. Jeez.
Man, I'm not
He
going to
was
lie.
really forcing that one out.
Man, you got to. That's how he always sounds these days. He always sounds like constipated. But yeah, I'm quite proud of this. I got another one of these, but it's orange colored, and I'm planning on doing some real crazy stuff with that one. I'm gonna make that one completely rusted out. So hopefully I'll be able to get to that here within the next several days and knock that one out. But that boxcar, by the way, I did that one. I didn't show it to y'all. It wasn't anything impressive. It was just like done quickly, like in less than 2 hours. But I was pretty happy with that one. So I hope y'all enjoy seeing this. I hope y'all do. Because I know some of y'all like the train rabbit holes. So, I like to throw y'all a bone because I like going into the train rabbit holes. And so, I just enjoy it. What can I say? What can I say, folks? But anyways, a huge thanks to you so much once again for support. Give up now and help with this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, it is an incredible community. I mean, you can find quite literally anyone and everyone in here of any type. And they're welcome here. They're welcome here. Because much like the United States of America, we don't discriminate in what people think. We don't discriminate in what people believe and anything like that. You're welcome here as long as you don't try and make what you think or believe everyone else's problem and try and force them to think your way. You can be here. And so big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a $20 support from Carrie's 8. Thank you, Carrie's, as well, for the 20. They said, thanks for the reporting, and here's a little gas for the tank.
A little gas for the tank? That's like 2 gallons. I'm just playing, by the way. We thank you greatly for the support. And I got to say that we're greatly appreciative for your support, Carries, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and put some gas up in that tank. And so a massive thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on and into the next one.
We also have a whopping $50 super chat from Marion Deemer once again. And thank you, Marion, once more for that support right there, the 50. And we do appreciate that very much. And Marion said, may you both chive on.
I haven't had chive on a baked potato in a long time. I need to actually do that sometime around chiving, that'd be good. And so I gotta say, a big thanks to your support, Marion Demon, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we both will chive on quite well indeed. And thanks to your support, it'll be possible. All right, so with that, I don't know why I had to laugh like Polly right there. I laughed like Polly when he was watching that TV show. I went, but beyond that, though, a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have here a $10 support from anti-insurrection. That's what it says right there. But thank you very much for that support, and we do appreciate that very much. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I have a feeling, man, one day you're gonna be like we're both gonna get old, and we're both gonna be in a home, and we're gonna be sitting by each other, man. And you're gonna be sitting there, like the nurse is gonna come by and be like, "Would you like your medicine?" You're gonna be like, "Honestly, I would like." What's the medicine called? I don't want to get sued. Like, man, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, it's called Sudafed." Yeah, I would like that. Like, I want my medicine. Man, like, honestly, but
Give me
beyond
the
that,
medicine. Give me that medicine.
man, bro, it's gonna be that guy from the damn Louis Theroux documentary. I'm going to shambok you. Like, bro, in the whole bro. Oh man,
Oh no, not the Shambach, whatever that is.
man, it's like the ShamWow, but we hit you. But beyond that, though, a big thanks to your support, anti-insurrection, and helping this channel to keep on running. We're greatly appreciative of it, and your support is helping us to do quite a lot here on air. And so with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $10 support from Thomas Kruger, and thank you, Thomas, for that 10. He said, I agree that the upcoming Russian aggression with the Baltics and NATO will end up in NATO convention a victory, and then threaten nuclear escalation by the Russians, and what say you?
I actually pretty much agree with that dead on. I think that in an actual war against the Russians, NATO would end up coming out on top pretty quickly, I would believe, probably within the first few months. And then that would lead them on into the nuclear escalation path. And we got to figure out if they're bluffing or if we should back off. And, you know, hopefully we'll pick the right decision, whatever that may be at that point. But that's probably how it'll go, unfortunately. But I would agree with you completely. I think that's exactly how it would go myself, Thomas. And a big thanks to you for your support and helping this channel to keep it running. And I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 10 from Strong River Flats, and thank you, good sir, for the 10. He said, oh, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by. It's all talking and no giving.
Who? Are you talking to us? You talking to us? I mean, you know, it's a living. It's a living. You know, we
What are you throwing a super chat?
Yeah, we pay our bills. We pay our bills, and we thank you for helping to pay the bills too. You know, we thank you. You help us to work on this thing and stay on end and keep like dedicating our whole lives to this. I mean, we basically have no lives, folks, because of this. Y'all are our lives. We get on here every day to talk to y'all. We love it. We really do. And we thank the folks who do go out of their way to help us to be able to keep getting the living, barely getting by. It's all talking and no giving and all that. Oh man, I'm telling you.
I still get out. I still get out. Like I get out. I'm
Wow.
not stuck in the house. I mean,
Well, I don't. Not all the time, at least, because, man, I'll tell y'all, folks, after doing these shows, like these live shows every day, I generally get up the next day and I'm just trying to make sure to manage my energy to get on to the next show. So I don't really get out a whole lot because this thing is quite consuming, like doing the live streams at least. And then if a short war video is around, my whole day is blown. Like the whole schedule's gone. I have nothing to do but work. So a big thanks to...
I went out the other day and went for a mountain bike, which I hadn't done in a long time, because it finally got cool enough for it. So I go like up some pretty extreme like mountain biking paths because I want to get the downhill going really fast. So I was going up there. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Like this thing's out in the middle of nowhere. I won't say exactly where it's at. Don't want to say where I'm going for obvious reasons. But you know, I was going out in the middle of nowhere. I was like dying up this hill, and then out of the blue, like as I was like mountain biking up this massive mountain, like to come back down it, there's like a horse, like literally like standing in the middle of the trail, and this girl and this horse. I'm like, what the hell? I'm out in literally the middle of nowhere, and there's like a horse coming down the trail. I was like, oh yeah, hey, a nice horse. I was like, what the hell? So I just went on by, and then finally came back around. But it was weird though. I was like, what the hell's a horse doing out in the middle of like nowhere? Like, did you know they do that?
Yeah. Like, why didn't you like stop your bike and be like, oh, you got like a nice horse there. What's your name? Like, why didn't you do that?
Well, I mean, I was kind of like semi-dying, you know. I was kind of like dying a little bit. You know, I was just like huffing and puffing.
Yeah, but then she doesn't have to ask you for workout. She clearly saw that you did. And that's like that's a plus right there, Matthew. You bombed it, Matthew. You
I
bombed
really
it.
don't
That's
need to.
why not? Why not?
I just don't need to.
Why not? That's so mysterious. You're not elaborating.
Well, I'm not elaborating here.
Okay. whoa, like, I don't know what that means, but we'll find out. But beyond that, though, I gotta say, I mean, honestly, horses, they're pretty cool. Like, I've seen a couple of them, actually, Matthew, like, over there on the Wasatch Mountains. Not over there, like, where you went, because I'm pretty sure I know where you went. It's like, what is it, the Oquira Mountains or something like that?
Damn it. What, man, what is wrong with you and OPSEC? What the
Man, like,
hell,
these are
man?
the mountains around us, man. We've been to them before. You literally got stuff on Patreon if you be up there in those mountains.
Man, I tell you what, like I tell you.
What that, dude, I can literally go pull up at least 5 different Patreon posts we've made where we're in those mountains. What is wrong? Like, what is wrong?
Man, I tell you, man, people are wilding out in this chat right now. I don't know what the hell's going on in this chat, but it's wilding out.
Man, I gotta tell you, man, it was over there, right? I mean, right? It was over here in these mountains, right?
I really don't want to say. I'd prefer to, like, keep that sort of private.
Well, beyond that, though, the mountains I usually pick to go to, folks, are usually the Wasatch Mountains. And over there's always horses. I've ran into, like, at least 5 of them in my times wandering around over there, which I have not done in about the past month and a half, but still, I ran into a couple of them. So, yeah, I did know about that, Matthew. I did know about that. And Matthew, folks, is having an absolute breakdown right now, like, over the fact I violated OPSEC of the whole Patreon deal where he's posted 5 times that he's been over there.
Man,
In those mountains.
he's trying to get me to violate my OPSEC on the location, like my personal life and everything. Like, man, I just might as well let it all out tonight. Might as well just tell him everything, like put my credit card number out there and all that stuff right now. I'll tell you what.
Oh, well, man, I mean, like, if I'm blowing OPSEC on something in any other regard, that's news to me. I mean, I wouldn't even know. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to RCH Technologies. He put in a $20 support. And thank you very much, RCH, for that 20 right there. And we do appreciate it. And they said, okay, it worked. And also thank you, Bob, by the way, for that support. He said, you drug me out of the shadows with a train talk. And take one from the chat, please, in LSA.
Hey, and a big thanks to your support. And I gotta say, I got you. And also, I hope you're doing quite well as well, RCH Technologies, on your recovery path as well, much like BC Scamming a little bit earlier. But yeah, trains, we all love them. And I know you love them because you got that Scale Trains SD40 demonstrator unit in your profile picture, which is quite a nice looking one right there. And so a huge thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here, our next one goes to Flat for Life, who puts in a 10. And thank you, by the way, for that support. I said Canada should stop playing footsies with the CCP, and things between the U.S. and Canada will be A-OK.
Well, I mean, isn't that kind of unfair, though, because the U.S. is playing footsies with the communist Chinese right now by going over there and saying we're going to increase trade relations with them? So why in the world do we get a pass and Canada doesn't get a pass in that regard? Like, that's kind of like the argument that I was making earlier of, why in the world is it that the Canadians are getting dissed on and dogged on for that when the president went over there and basically, like, kissed Xi's ass and everyone acted like that was fine? But when Canada even looks like they kind of are, not openly hostile against the Chinese, then everyone wants to give them heat for it. To me, that seems unfair. And of course, I always say in foreign policy, it's rules for thee, not for me, but that doesn't apply to our allies. With our allies, we try and play fairly. And if the U.S. can go over to China and increase trade relations with them when we're about to be getting into a war with them, why in the world is it a problem for Canada to do the same? Like, the U.S. has to lead by example in that regard as the leader of our sphere. But a big thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a $10 support from Travis Murray, and thank you very much, Travis, as well, for the 10. He said, pretty soon we will be seeing Russian business owners on top of their buildings defending them like the Korean shop owners during the LA riots, LOL.
Man, those rooftop Koreans, I tell you, back in the day. I think that was near West Hollywood. Well, actually, Koreatown, yeah. It was in Koreatown. And they had all of the rooftop Koreans. A local legend of the LA area. Sadly, we never went through there. But I can tell you, folks, that I have gone through the Hospital of Emotions. It's just that I never went to that hospital. But I definitely went through a Hospital of Emotions at some times in my life. But still, a very, very nice niche reference from the LA City area. And maybe they will one day. I mean, it's not out of the question with that law coming out today. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, Tom Exman said, just wear a wig and a fake mustache when you ride out there, Matt. LOL, excuse me, by the way. Honestly, man, I feel like I'm going to go out there next time. Someone will be waiting in the bushes or something like that. You think, oh, it's a bear. Oh, no, it's not a bear. It's just it's just a friendly hitman coming out of the bushes over here or something like that. I tell you what. Oh, man. But anyway, so our next one here goes to Cerberus3, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Cerberus, as well. They said, hands down, after living all over the USA, the best beaches near Pensacola, Florida, along the Panhandle. Miles of white sand can pull over and swim, and no trash or houses around. And show pictures to the chat, please.
Really interesting. Like, I'm not a really big beach goer. The only place I ever went to the beach was down near like Destin and 38 in my life, and I would say those beaches were actually really good. But let's take a look down here at the beaches near Fort Pickens Road. Oh, they don't have a street view here. What's going on? What's going on here? What the hell? Oh, this is what the hell? It's Fort Pickens. Let's see. Where in the world? Maybe this is the place right here. Yeah. Maybe this is the place. Yeah, look at that. Endless beaches. Honestly, the beaches down here in Florida are top rate, like A+ beaches. Something else right here. Look at it, the beauty of it. But I would say, me personally, the best beach that I've ever seen for scenery, and these are the ones I've only seen, so I didn't really go around Pensacola a whole lot. I would say the favorite place I've ever seen a beach at would be around here near Santa Barbara. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that Pacific Ocean water. Oh yeah, look at it. And then you got Santa Barbara back there in the hills. This place looked really cool on the train. Like, I was really impressed with this area of the California coast. Um, honestly, it looks really nice. I would say the sand though doesn't really look like Florida sand. It's not like that fluorescent white that they have down there, which is really nice, and also the water's like bathtub clear. But this looks like a really cool place. I would like to go back there one day and see that myself. But I don't know whenever I get the time. But a big thanks to you for the support. Matthew, what do you think your favorite beach in America is that you've seen?
My favorite beach is probably that area in Florida, that highway of 38 down there, Seaside, that area. That's probably the nicest one to me. It's a little Truman Showish because that's actually where Truman Show was filmed. But I'll be honest, like, I'm kind of a Truman Show type of fella, if I really think about it. Like, why does it not look good in this picture? Like, it actually does not look appealing. It looks nasty.
Bro, this water is brown. Bro, this water is brown. Charlie Brown. Bro, what the hell? Bro, what the hell? Bro, this never looked brown when we went there. It was like literally clear. This is brown. Like,
Yeah, I think it might have changed.
that was in 2013, by the way, when that picture was taken. Maybe this is recent. More recent. This is what the hell was up with the water down here? It's brown. Bruh.
Man,
Like,
why are they blurring people out like that? That's really sus.
I mean, honestly, like, it's real. Let me see if there's more recent pictures of this, because there's gotta be. What the hell? They don't even have pictures of the water at the beach? Let's see, beach. Oh, that's not what we're wanting to look at. Maybe this one? Yeah, that's what the water would look like when we would go there. It would be blue like that, not brown. I don't know what was up with the brown water. Oh, 2013. Oh, that wasn't near the BP oil spill. That was years ago before that. But yeah, that's what it would look like when we would go. And honestly, that's a pretty solid place right there. Very beautiful. Like, here's another view of it. It's impressive looking. But I do have to say, that's a nice beach down there. But beyond that, a huge thanks to you for support, Cerberus, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I would have to say, Florida beaches are bar none some of the best, in my opinion. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 10 from Cerberus3 once again, who put in a 10. And thank you, Cerberus, very much for the extra 10. He said, as said to Enforcer Matt. And also, he was trying to send me a chat to go along with it. For whatever reason, Cerberus, I can see you sending messages to me right now, like in the chat, like I see you tagged me. But when you try to send me the one for the super chat, it did not show up at all in the chat twice in a row. So I'm not sure why that is. If you want to try one more time, we can see if we can get it through in the chat and read it off. But I sadly can't see it. But Enforcer, what say you?
And we thank you greatly for the support. And if you can eventually get that through to us, we will circle around. We will get that little sucker. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 10 from Flamingo. He said, hi, engulfers. To become a good rail operator, you need to sleep nearby because you want to get trained. And one from the chat, please. And not, whoa,
hey, whoa, Jack,
what the hell are you talking about?
Whoa,
The
Jack.
innuendo is heavy in this one.
Whoa, when you throw in a super chat, the pros, the prawns, the seafood boil. You gotta cook them. Back in Iraq when I was Saddam Hussein. Beyond that, though, a big thanks to your support. Know this channel to keep it running, and we will make sure to get one from the chat in your honor. So, Matthew, what do we got?
And the one from the chat is going to go to none other than Volinger, who said, "Why isn't Estonia and Latvia following Lithuania's footsteps and making an actual year-round professional army division, especially considering war with Russia's on the horizon?"
Oh, that's a good question. Let me make sure to get up to that one here in the spreadsheet. Let's see. It's sadly more so because of budgeting reasons with those countries. They don't have tremendously large GDPs, and because of that, they really can't raise large standing forces. Lithuania is the most successful country by GDP figures out of the 3 Baltic states, and that's why their armed forces are the largest and the most impressive. Not to say that it's impossible for the Latvians or the Estonians to do. They could do it, but it's going to require significant amounts of military spending and funds, which they are already. I think most of those countries are actually some of the highest spenders in NATO right now and are over the 2% quota that currently exists in NATO. So big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 10 from Game Theory, and thank you, Game Theory, as well, for the 10. He said, "Your channel is growing, and don't you think one day you will put out live events and people would get your full names anyway?" Well, truthfully, our full names are out there. Like I've had, there's people out there that have literally the video of our graduation from college. Like, people have a lot of stuff on us because we're not exactly what you call secret. Like, but there are some things I do want to keep private, like my personal life and stuff like that, like where I go, who I'm like, talking to and stuff like that. I generally want to keep that private. I don't want to put out all that information like that. Some stuff like that should stay private. But I think most people know our full name. Like if you look for it, you'll find it. That's true, truly speaking. But Enforcer, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not really too worried about. Like, that's why I'm not too worried about it on the show. Because it's like anyone who's going to try and do any wrong against us, they already have had our name for years, like our full name. So it's like for the audience to know our full names, it's not that big of a deal. Generally, though, folks, I will say that these, like, honestly, folks, like the thing is that I don't have any problem with people calling me Andrew, but I've gotten so used to over the years, quite literally everybody I know, including people I've known forever, just going to calling me Enforcer without me even wanting them to, that I feel like Enforcer is more my normal name than Andrew is even more, because I hear Enforcer way more than I do Andrew. So if you call me Andrew, it's totally fine. But honestly, I feel a lot more comfortable with Enforcer because it feels more uniform. Everyone basically calls me that these days, which is bizarre. Like, I actually have to say, because every once in a while I think, wouldn't that be like better if they all called me like Andrew instead? And I'm like, well, it's each their own, and I'm just going to go with the majority, and most of them call me Enforcer, so that's generally what I'm running with these days. As some people say, I'm actually not going to do that joke. But anyways, a big thanks to you for the support and for this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
And also, to return back to Cerberus' super chat real quick, he was unable to get the message through, sadly, so we're going to grab a question from the chat in honor of Cerberus. And also, sorry about that, by the way. I don't know what's going on with it. It must be a word that they don't like or something. But Cerberus' live chat question is going to go to B. Woodward, who said, "With all the damage to humanity's food sources, do we know what the West have in the plans to help depleting food sources?"
Unfortunately, we don't really know a lot right now, and also the U.S. has stripped back a lot of its U.S. aid programs, which provided food to impoverished areas or in famined areas. So, unfortunately, we really don't have a plan. If anything, we've kind of been scaling back on that already before this started to come around to being. So, I hope that addresses that the best I can. Unfortunately, the answer isn't really that great in that regard, but I do thank you greatly for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Hotso, who puts in a 6. And thank you, Hotso, for that $6 support, and we do appreciate it. There's no comment, but a huge thanks for the support. Also, a huge thanks to Mark Dixon, who put in a 5. And we do appreciate that very much, Mark, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And a big thanks to the both of you, Hotso and Mark Dixon, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, someone said, gets pulled over. Do you have any aliases? They call me the Enforcer. I actually, when we used to live in Alabama, I ordered pizza online to go pick it up from a place that was nearby to where we lived. And I went to go pick it up, and I remember walking in there, and the dudes were Italian in there, so that was also extra bad too, since there's like the mafia connection and stuff like that. Apparently my email came across as Enforcer Matt something something behind it, and they're like, "Are you Enforcer Matt?" And I was like, I was like, "Yeah." I didn't even realize it came across, but that was very awkward to say the least. But moving into our next one here, this one goes to Truck and Chef, who puts in the 20. And thank you, Truck and Chef, as well, for that $20 support. He said, "Good evening, Enforcers. I've been meaning to ask you this. Since you are reporting the news, have y'all ever thought of sending reporters around the globe to get live coverage? And that would be awesome. LSA all day and great community."
We have actually thought about that before. Sadly, though, we can never make the numbers work on that because when it comes, like, not to get deep, and I'm not going to get deep into the channel finances, but we don't really, like, we make enough money for us to both be able to make a living doing this and have a career doing it, but we really don't make enough money as a channel to actually be able to bring on a third person to do something like that, or to fly them around the world and have them go do stuff like that. So while we would love to do that, and we've actually talked about that in the background before, every time we try and parse through the numbers of figuring out how much that would cost to bring on someone like that, and then they would probably have to have a cameraman as well, so then that requires a fourth person to be brought onto the team, and then we have to pay both of them, and then we have to pay for their lodging and their flights and whatnot. It unfortunately becomes financially infeasible at that point, because basically everybody income wise would be living below the poverty line at that point if we had 4 people on the team, which would include a reporter and a cameraman to send around. So we would love to do it. It's just that we just don't make the funding to do it. And generally we could try and find the funding to do it by taking on sponsors and running ads on quite literally everything. But I really don't. Well, neither of us really want to monetize the channel like that, because it kind of goes against our whole crowdfunding sort of a model that we have for the channel, where the viewers support the news, where we're not beholden to other people telling us what we can and can't say. And so to try and preserve the original premise of the channel and its original values and its original abilities, we really can't take on humongous sums of
What
additional
about,
funding.
what about we get people to do it for free and we call them unpaid interns?
That's just exploitative. Like that is just
No, it's not. It's a resume builder.
to send
It's giving people a good break.
man, to send them into a war zone, not even getting paid. Like, man, no, like, no, man, that'd be terrible for those people. Like, they deserve to be paid for their work. Everyone deserves to be paid for their work. We just don't really have the ability to pay them. So that's kind of the unfortunate fact of the reality here. And a lot of people be like, "Oh, y'all probably make a killing." Yeah, well, we do not make as much as y'all probably think we do. Like, we make an okay amount. It's a comfortable amount, but it's nothing that is going to be, turning us into multimillionaires or billionaires where we can run like a media conglomerate or anything, sadly. But a big thanks to you for support, though, Truck and Chef, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I also thank you for being enthusiastic behind the idea, because we'd love to do that too someday. But we want to be able to do that while keeping to our original guns of keeping this thing crowdfunded, so we can remain independent and cover the stories the way y'all like to hear them. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one's going to go to Give Up Now. He put in a 10, actually two $10 supports. And thank you very much, by the way, for that. He said, "Harp on the way, Addy."
Addy. I went batty on the way to Cincinnati. But beyond that, though, a big thanks to your support, Give Up Now, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 20 from Cerberus3, who said, sir, other countries don't use the name Gulf of America. They use the metric system. So sad. They love football, and they should love feet. That's a little bit out there, but to each their own. That's why they have menus in restaurants, sir. Some people want the spaghetti. Some people want the meatballs, sir. But Enforcer Matt has not gotten his own rabbit hole. Matt, favorite philosophy teacher? Favorite philosophy teacher? I don't know. I really don't have a favorite philosophy teacher. I kind of come up with my own ideas. Not to sound arrogant, but like I'm sure there's great philosophers out there, but I don't really have one per se. I probably heard a quote or two here and there, but not really a favorite per se. So sadly, Cerberus, I wouldn't have one to disappoint you with that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that if I had to pop one off the top of my head, I'd probably say that one of the more fascinating philosophers is Nietzsche, from Germany, a 19th century philosopher, because he came up with the idea that the world is a meaningless place with really no objectives or goals or anything. Which, if you kind of look at it, I mean, if you're talking outside of religion, it kind of is a meaningless, pointless place. Like, what is the goal of living? But then he said, because of that void of nothing, people should try and find something to do, to dedicate their life to improve themselves for the better and the people around them. And I think that was a very interesting philosophy, because while it's I'm a religious person, it's an a-religious philosophy. I think the idea of finding inspiration in a void to be actually something quite interesting and really powerful when you think about it, that even in the midst of pointlessness and senseless, one can still find the motivation and drive to do something with their life and to better themselves and the people around them. I think that's a very interesting sort of a philosophy. But I do thank you greatly for
I
the
think to
support.
be a good philosopher, you have to lock yourself in the basement and be completely isolated.
A lot of them did that. Like, a lot of them did
Yeah, I
that.
think they
Yeah.
did. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like they were going like slowly crazy, and they were starting to have all these ideas that were very abnormal because they were slightly going crazy a little bit. Like, didn't that Nietzsche guy? Didn't he like live like a monk?
No, he didn't. He wasn't the guy who lived like a monk. Like, he had like normal jobs. He was a professor at a lot of German universities. And then he mentally broke. He had a terrible life, by the way, man. If you ever read about his life, it was a brutal life, man. Like, he got abused as a kid, and then he grew up, and like nothing ever went right in his life, and he got handicapped early on by a debilitating illness. And he was living his life just trying to do the best he could, and nothing would ever go right. And even in the midst of all of that never going right, he would still try and keep a positive outlook that maybe none of this means anything, but you can still make it into something, and you can still find worth and value and meaning in life, even with how wrong everything was going for him. And one day he mentally broke, I think when he was in Italy, and he watched a master of a horse basically almost beating the thing to death, and he ran over and he was crying stop, and he flung his arms around the horse's neck and begged the man to no longer beat his horse. And after that, he just snapped, and I think it was like 14 days later he died of I forgot what they called it back then. It's like a broken heart or something like that. He basically just lost it and just lost the will to live and died.
Damn,
But he lived
dude
a,
died of
a
broken
rough life.
heart.
Yeah, like it was
I
some.
like
I
that.
think.
Those Russian those Russian philosophers are really insane, though. Those ones that were over there in Russia, I forgot their names, but they were Russian philosophers. They were really nutty.
Man, the Russian philosophers literally would just come up with life is shit and worthless and everything sucks and it's terrible. That was literally just their philosophy. It's like everything's awful. Like, dude, if you ever read any Russian novel, none of them ever end with a happy ending. All of them are the worst, saddest imaginable endings you can ever think of. Like, that's
Yeah.
just Russia. It's misery.
And then you have Carl Jung there, like he was talking about in the live chat right now. He just came up with all kinds of weird, like that dude is coming up with some weird stuff. Like like the stuff that he was saying, I was like, what the hell? Like the stuff he says, you're like, you take a double take at it. You're like, what the hell does that even mean? Have you heard some of the junk he said?
And who is this guy again?
Carl Jung,
Carl Jung. I don't think I've heard of him before.
pull him up.
Let's see. How do you spell him? Is it a K, Carl?
Yeah, no, it's a C.
Oh, Swiss psychiatrist. Let's see here. Best known for archetypes. So let's see here. That's Foster. Let's see here. You established him. So what is the summary of this guy? Because I'm trying to read it, but they've written a book about him even as a summary. So what is the summary of this fellow?
He was just really strange with the ideas he was putting out there. I think also Diane Merriam says he's a psychologist. I think he was a psychologist actually, but it's sort of similar. Like the stuff he was coming up with was like almost like philosophical, but he was a psychologist, I think. But yeah, I think. Wait a minute, hold on here. I think I might be getting it mixed up. I think it might be Freud that I'm thinking about. Sigmund Freud, actually. I think it is actually Sigmund Freud.
Oh, you're talking. No, Freud, dude, was a weirdo. You have a longing for your mother. It's like, no, I
Oh
don't.
yeah, that's the yeah, that's the one.
That's Freud.
That's the
Yeah,
one.
that's
This
Sigmund
dude coming out with all
Freud.
this weird, nasty stuff. It's like, what the hell is going on with this dude? Check this dude out. This dude isn't right.
Dude, everyone knows who Sigmund Freud is, dude. Sigmund Freud was a nut. Dude, let me show y'all a picture of him. Look at that picture and tell me that's not the picture of a deranged man.
It's just a really strange thing. The reason why he's now in a psychological psychosis is because he really wanted to do something with his nearest relative. It's like, whoa, it's like, what the It's like, what made you come to that conclusion? It's like, out of everything you could have possibly concluded to like figure out why somebody's messed up, it's like you go with something like
Man,
that. It's
man,
like,
also
what the hell is going on?
I also like his theory of like women hate themselves because they're not men. It's like, what type of have you ever heard of that one before?
No, I hadn't heard of that one.
Budman just put the actual name of it in the chat, but basically it's that they're born a woman and dudes have like a different thing going on, and then apparently when they're like adolescents or something, they go, "Damn, well they got that, and I don't, so I'm incomplete, so I hate myself, and everyone else like me." Like it's like what? It's like what is it? What is that theory? It's like that doesn't even make any sense.
Man, if I wasn't having to be PG right now, I can make so many jokes about that, but I'll keep it PG though. But yeah, it's like why is it? It's like Michael Jackson was saying, why does it have to be so sexual?
Really?
It's like, why is this dude being so sexual about everything? It's like, what the hell's like? I think that was more of a reflection of what's going on in this dude's head. It's like, I think you're projecting on people. It's like, what about that in psychology? You're projecting.
Man, honestly, straight up, man, yeah, they are projecting. I mean, well, this guy is. It's also, man, like there was a great video, by the way, Matthew. If you've never watched it, it is a hoot. It's a comedy, basically. It's made by this guy called Sam Onella Academy. Have you ever heard of him on YouTube? He's got like 5 million subscribers.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Oh man, he made a great video about Sigmund Freud. It was the funniest thing. But it basically like summarized the whole history of the guy. And also, folks, I had to learn about this guy in Psychology 101 in college. And honestly, folks, one thing that you kind of learn in psychology is that up until the very modern day, psychology was an absolute like whack show. Like modern psychologists have got a way better understanding of the mind than they ever had. But back then it was literally stuff like, they seem to be active of the mind. Let's lobotomize them and see how that works. It's like, what? And also, if you don't know, lobotomies were never really given out as a form of therapy. They were usually given out in asylums as a form of punishment. And it's like, it's wild. And then you also had this guy who was quite an influential figure in early psychology. And all of his theories these days are looked at as absolute, like, what would they call them? Wives' tales or bonkers. Yeah, even that is just goofy stuff.
Yeah, this dude right here, I think he had some issues or something.
I'll tell you, man, with the way he's posing right there, he does. Man, he does. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a $10 support from Gary Schreiber, and thank you, Gary, as well, for the 10. He said, "Good evening from Anchorage, Alaska, and just in case World War III with all its booming glory happens, do you guys think about a secondary system for broadcasting via ham radio?"
Not really. Because we've gotten into such a bad state that we're in that condition. It probably wouldn't matter whether we were on air or not. But I do thank you for the support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a $6 support from Jack Ray, who said, "Well, we have to go through something like de-Stalinization after all this and fix the names and the gaudy garbage."
As soon I'll tell you this, as soon as this guy's out, the Oval Office is getting all that cheap Home Depot stuff off the walls. Like, that's just happening. It's like, I don't think anyone wants that around. And no one's gonna be like, wow, that's a great legacy, these $5 Home Depot, like, gold inlaid things. Nah, those are gone. I will say there probably will be, to a degree, of like denaming everything that has been named after him, because I don't really like it doesn't even look like it's popular now anymore. I don't really see a lot of people out there who are like, yeah, this is great, he ought to keep doing that. And I also know that whoever comes in next, regardless whether they're of the same party or not, they're probably going to want to distance themselves from them after the fact, because they're probably going to be in the next election trying to aim for the growing population of moderates who really aren't with either party, because they're getting disillusioned with both parties just doing whatever the hell they want, which is absolutely nuts. And so they're going to try and appeal to those people, which means they're clearly going to have to detach from him. And considering this is the last term he can ever run, it's not like he's really going to have that much influence or sway left over, really, to speak of, rather than just being around as a name to mention or shout out every once in a while. So I hope that does address it the best I can. And a big thanks to you for the support. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $20 support from Cerberus3 once again, and thank you very much, Cerberus, once more for that $20 support. They said Carl Jung believed that religion and science was two sides of the same coin, a belief via acceptance of the shadow self, and incorporation would stop repressive outbursts and balance to be a complete human, student of Nietzsche.
Interesting. I don't really know a lot personally about Carl Jung. That's one of the people I don't know about. But I do thank you greatly for support and sharing that little bit of a factoid about him, because that's giving me a little bit more of an inkling of who this guy is and what he's about. And so big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Game Theory. He said, did you hear about the CIA Director emergency trip to Russia, and what's that about?
We did. Actually, we covered that as our headliner tonight. And it was generally about the Russians building up and preparing escalations against NATO and trying to warn them against doing such a thing. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And big thanks to your support and help the channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have here a 5 from Derek Allen, and thank you, Derek, as well. He said Poland is the target. Baltic states aren't a threat due to Russian eyes, and he needs east side of Poland due to logistics to Ukraine.
Well, the Baltics is technically an easier thing to lop off. Like, if you try and just invade Poland, you've got to contend with the whole of Europe behind them as a supply line. If you go for the Baltics, you can just close the Suwalki Gap, and they're basically besieged until NATO can relieve them. So, generally, we believe that most escalations are going to be surrounding the Baltics, as it's going to be the easiest chunk of land for the Russians to physically try and take and hold. So, big thanks to you for support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from TY Golden Flyer, and thank you, TY, for that 5. They said these wars cost money and will continue to destroy all fiat currencies, protect your families, and buy some of these precious metals. Those in power are troublesome. Honestly, like I can understand why people might think that, but in reality, though, like if all the currencies around the world are in the gutter, we're in foul shape. Like it's not gonna matter really what's had at that point. I understand your sentiment, though. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would understand the sentiment, but also, um, currency isn't fiat just because it isn't attached to any sort of metal. Like, the metal also has an artificial value attached to it as well. And people will always argue until the end of time that gold has real value to it. But why does it have value? It just doesn't. Like it doesn't at all. Because it's like, for example, here in the Americas, before the colonials arrived, Native American groups would trade with seashells, certain types of stones, jade, anything. You can make anything into a currency. It doesn't have to be gold. Gold is not the default currency. Really, at that point, if the world is in such a bad state that money has really no meaning, it's best not to have gold because you can't eat gold. It might be better to have something that you can legitimately barter with, something that is usable, like shoes or some sort of goods that you can trade with other people. Because like a little piece of gold is cool, but if you give that to someone for a pair of boots, they're down a pair of boots and they've got a shiny little piece of some metal that really can't do anything. So I would personally say, if you think the world's in that bad of a state, I would go for something else other than gold. But that's me personally. That's my opinion. But a big thanks to you for the support and help the channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from a grain of salt. He said, I got a raise at work, so here's for the chicken and slow cooker fun. And thank you, by the way. They said, try beef stew, potato, carrot, onion, pea, and beef, and cook for 8 hours. 6 to 8 meals for $25. Honestly, a slow cooker sounds good. There's another viewer that sent me an email about recipes with a slow cooker. That's probably what I need. Like, considering my skill level with cooking, I probably just need something simple like that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would agree, honestly. I think you do need one of them slow cookers, something along those lines. And honestly, that sounds like a cheap way to eat. We'll have to look into that. And a big thanks to you for your support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have here a support from Garen 1999, and thank you as well. He said the game Broken Arrow has a false flag drone operation that ends up causing a war with NATO. And do you think the Russians would do something similar in LSA?
Don't even get me started on that game. Oh man, that game had so much promise for them to completely make the Russians way overpowered and give them fictitious super weapons that they don't have in real life, which I found just very annoying to me. I'll be honest with you, Garen. I have played that game and I played it quite a lot when it came out, but after they did a couple of updates they made where the Russians win every game hands down, I do not like Broken Arrow anymore. But beyond that though, I would say, yeah, it's actually plausible. I mean, actually, the storyline of the beginning of the game about escalations between Russia and NATO, it's actually pretty reasonable. Like, it's actually a decent escalatory path that could happen. And also the invasion that the Russians conducted of NATO in the aftermath. All that is actually a fairly likely scenario. It's based in reality to a degree. But everything else that came afterwards, like the senator that just wanted to nuke Russia and he somehow had the authority to do that, that is never happening. Like, none of that will happen. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a five from Veman Guy who said, I said months ago that Iran was enriching in hidden facilities during all the stalling, and they absolutely will have a nuke after all this.
I think they're working towards one as well because if the Iranians ever had a reason to develop a nuclear weapon, they have one now. Because whoever is the supreme leader, whether it be Mujtaba or the IRGC Council or anyone else, they understand that if they do not have a nuclear weapon, the U.S. could just fly back over their heads and knock out the supreme leader and kill him again. So to stop the United States from doing something like that again, they now need a nuclear weapon because that'll stop the United States from doing that because they can nuke someone in the general area or they can nuke the United States. So I would agree with you. I think they are certainly working towards a nuclear weapon, and they will probably be trying to get one off the ground at some point in the future. But a huge thanks to you for the support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a five from Ulf Hednar who said, this mystery beef is a reason to diversify our meat sources. Add lamb, duck, goose, gator, buffalo, etc. And also heard that some of the beef might be horse. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That would be bad if it was. I'm not sure though. But I like to know where the meat comes from. I don't want this mystery meat. I don't know about all that. But Enforcer, what say you?
Well, I tell you, it's not made out of horse because Lavrov is still in the foreign ministry. Oh, oh.
Damn.
Beyond that, though, I would say, I mean, honestly, different meats are decent. Lamb's not bad in my opinion. Some people say it's a little bit tangy, but I think it's pretty good. I haven't ever had goose. I've had buffalo and gator, and I don't think I've had duck either. But I've had lamb and gator and buffalo. But honestly, yeah, diversification of the meat source would be pretty good. But I also got to say, I don't mean to get into domestic politics, folks, but I'd have to say I think this whole importing meat from Argentina thing is absolutely ridiculous because the president is basically destroying all of the domestic cattle ranchers here in America because now they're getting undercut by cheap Argentine beef. I mean, it's a complete
Yeah,
destruction of our own domestic industry.
I heard the farmers today, they were like, well, why are we importing all this beef from like these foreign countries and stuff when we were promised to like, protect the U.S. Meat industry? It's like, they were like, well, I don't have anywhere to sell my meat. It's like, it's like, they don't, it's like, what, I don't even know what they're doing.
Well, did you hear what the president said? They're fighting in Argentina for their lives, and I like Javier, so I'm going to help them out. I'm going to screw over all the Americans because I like Javier. It's like, honestly, it's like, I think a lot of people kind of voted for you wrong. It's like, being honest here, it kind of just like basically lied to everybody. I mean, like we were told that all the food was going to be produced in America and we love the American farmers. Now we're screwing all of them over. Now we're screwing over everyone else with high gas prices. Nothing has gotten cheaper. And instead of saying that we're still working on it, now he says that you got to thank him for everything becoming more expensive. It's like honestly, folks, it's been an absolute wash with this guy. Like
Oh,
in my opinion, in every way, especially in foreign policy, this has been a waste.
yeah, it's bad. I went to Costco today to go, do a grocery run. I was looking at the meat prices over there. I was like, first of all, I heard that beef story, and I was a little bit scared. I don't think they're beef. I think it's just fine, probably. But, I was looking at the price. I was like, what the heck? I was like, even for the ground beef, it was expensive. I'm like, this is just unreal that the prices aren't coming down.
Yeah. Also, someone says such good Democrats. Oh my God, you're so deep in the Kool-Aid, man. You don't even get it. We don't even like those people either. Do you not do y'all people who are like indoctrinated into your cults not get that when someone says they don't like yours, it doesn't mean they're automatically a Democrat or a Republican. It just means they don't like your goofy people. Like that's like people like you, man, are the problem. I don't mean to like soapbox here, but people like you are the problem because you keep voting in these clowns that can lie to your face and screw you over, and you'd rather still defend them for some reason just because you feel like your reputation counts on it while they're screwing you and everyone else over. If people like you would stop voting, this country would be in a much better place. I mean, that's for everyone on the left and the right who acts like they cannot do anything but dead on support their side. If those people would stop voting, we'd be in a better country. But anyways, with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a five from Flamingo. He said, white sand on many beaches is poo from parrotfish that eats the corals.
Not in Florida. Like, not in Florida. Not in Florida. In Florida, it's actually quartz sand, which is it's kind of special to that area, kind of a unique thing. But I do thank you for the support and for this channel to keep running. But I think that is true for some beaches, but I don't think it's Florida beaches. But a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a five from DWRB who said, thoughts on the new AIM 424 Malice. Also, what's with a massive jump in number series, LSA?
Unfortunately, I don't think I'd be able to give comment on the AIM 424. I haven't heard a lot about it or read a lot about it, so I'll have to get apprised on that one. But I do thank you for the support, and long live the East Spring Army. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Game Theory who said, when is the US currency going to crash? The yen carry trade going to do?
Uh, I don't think the U.S. currency is really ever going to crash because it's a global reserve currency. So it kind of is insulated in that regard, in that way. But I think that right now is about the toughest time we've seen for the dollar in the last 50, 60 years, probably. But a big thanks to you for support and how about this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $2 support from Plazanth, and thank you, Plazanth, as well for the 2, and we do appreciate that very much. We also have a 2 from Justice, who said Lake Ontario will always be Lake Ontario.
Yeah, I would agree. And the Gulf of Mexico is always the Gulf of Mexico, and Fort Benning's Fort Benning. I'm never playing these goofy political games with changing names for the hell of it just because people feel good about it. That's just goofy to me. But a big thanks to you for support and how about this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from Boom Boom Landslide, who said thanks for the hard work.
And a big thanks to you for the support and in helping us out with that hard work. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from Water Barley Hops Yeast, who said, why would Zelensky not say where the Patriots are from?
Oh,
It
well,
was a term of receiving them.
probably operational security side of things. It probably is the Germans because the Germans have actually made all of their arms transfers to Ukraine confidential, and I have a feeling that the Ukrainians have to agree to that confidentiality for the Germans to keep supporting them. So it probably is highly likely the Germans in that case. But that's also the reason why it probably wasn't mentioned is because they may have a confidentiality agreement. And so with that, we're on the next one.
And we also have a 2 from Ulf Hednar, who said TDS should be renamed PMS, Political Madness Syndrome.
I mean, you could, but I mean, honestly, like in all fairness, well, yeah, honestly, it should be renamed that because, like, honestly, there was a lot of people who hated on the last president, like people are hating on the current one, and I find it so funny how people are like, the last president wasn't crucified like this until Trump came on. It's like, well, the last one was. I mean, we were here to watch it, It's like, and the one, and the ones before these two, well, he was as well. I mean, like, think about the president before this two, folks. That guy got blasted for wearing a tan suit. Like, when you think about it, with everything that's been going on in this administration and the last one, the guy before them all got blasted for wearing a tan suit. Like, that was the biggest problem facing this country was fashion. I mean, that's kind of a little bit wild when you think about it. Usually presidents just get put on a blast every single day, and I don't know why in the world this guy actually, he's supposed to be immune from that because half of the country is going to be basically trying to put you on blast every single day and criticize literally everything that you do. And with this guy, I mean, most of it's honestly kind of fair, especially when it's in foreign policy. But a big thanks to you for support and how about this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from RCX Technologies. He said, I can't buy chats tonight.
Oh no, you can. It's just that YouTube might be having a little comeuppance there. But a big thanks to you for the support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from DWRB, who said, do you think Ukraine secretly has nukes from the USSR days? And if so, do you think they'd use it in retaliation strike if NATO let them do it?
I would doubt it that they have nuclear weapons from the Soviet days because they had to get rid of them all, and they also had to have nuclear inspectors come into their country to confirm that all of them were removed because they had an account from the Soviet times of how many were in Ukraine, and they had to account for all of those nuclear weapons either being sent to the Russians or being destroyed in Ukraine through safe measures. So there wasn't really any of them that slipped through the cracks because the accounting of the nuclear weapons and their dismantlement and shipment out of Ukraine was very thorough at the time. So I would doubt that they have them. But a big thanks to you for support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from Phantom Boombox, who said, I'd recommend going to San Clemente State Beach.
Hey, you know what? San Clemente State Beach. Let's see. San Clemente. Where is this? Oh, South LA. Let's take a look at this. I've heard that there's actually a surfliner station here. So let's take a look at this place. North Beach. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's actually really cool. Kind of a rocky beach. Kind of like those beaches down there near Tuapse and Sochi. But yeah, this is really, I've actually seen, folks, a load, you can actually see right there, of railfan videos from this area because the Pacific Surfliner of the Amtrak service, and also I think Metrolink goes down here with commuter trains. So you can literally get dropped off on the beach. And Amtrak, folks, has a really cool service called the Surfliner, where you can actually put your surfboard on the train and ride it down to your stop to whatever beach you want to go to, and hop out and literally hop right off the train and right onto the beach, which is pretty convenient. So pretty cool, honestly. And honestly, it looks like GTA. And man, GTA 6 is coming out soon. So we'll have to see how that is. But still, a big thanks to your support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a $2 support from Game Theory, who said Claude can cook now.
Anyone can cook, except for AI. AI sucks.
Yeah, don't let AI cook.
Man, next thing you know, they're going to be taking all the ingredients and incinerating them for the AI to understand the scent of food, like or something like that. It's going to be something dumb.
What if you prompt AI and you're like, tell me how to cook, and it just writes back human, period.
It's not a helper. It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook.
Now make sure to eat up, Mr. Weathers. We don't want you to go hungry. Like, or whatever they said at the end. But beyond that, though, a big thanks to your support and help with this channel to keep on running Game Theory. And with that, folks, we have surprisingly made it through every single super chat. And now it's time for us to get to our Morse code decoders of the night and 3 live chats to round us out. So, Matthew, what do we got?
So the Morse code decoders for tonight were Paul, Kevin, Mason, Joni, Norm, Arabelle, Heroy, Fluffiness, Kush, Koteric, Sire, and Brian. And they said, the Morse code for today reads, it seems like the Russian Federation is getting ever so close to a major escalation with NATO. Very concerning in LLT LSA.
And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that dead on the nail. That's the Morse code message of the night, and I congratulate y'all greatly for getting that correct time and time again. It's always an amazing and fascinating thing to know that y'all can always get that correct, at least from our Signal Corps, and we're always proud of that, greatly proud of that, as a matter of fact. And so a huge shout out to y'all once again. And with that, it is time for us to get one more super chat before we move on to live chat. So what do we got?
And this one goes to Truck and Chef once more. And thank you very much, Truck and Chef, as well. He said, hit it dead on the nail, Enforcers. Support American and Western interests and call out stupid, left or right or in between. And because you can't fix stupid, Ron White. From every party, trust me. Not everybody can cook, LOL.
Believe me, not everyone can. I can't. Well, I can cook all right, but not all the time. But a big thanks to your support. And I'd have to say that's what we're about here. People don't get it when we say that we're politically neutral. That doesn't mean that when people do stupid stuff, we don't call it stupid. It means that we call them stupid regardless who they are, whether they be a Democrat or a Republican. And I always find it funny that people will come on the show and be like, yeah, but you're not criticizing the Democrats tonight. It's like, yeah, well, the Democrats had their time for like the first 3 years of the show. It's like now we're in the Republicans' time when they're in charge, and it's a year and a half in, and it's going as bad, if not worse, than the last. And we were not happy with the last people either. We criticized them to hell. I remember back in the day, folks, when we would criticize the Democrats, people would call us MAGA, and like criticize the hell out of us because we were going up against their demagogues. Now the Republicans are in charge, and we do the very same thing, and now we get called liberals and democrats and all that crap. Because a lot of these, like, I gotta say, folks, a lot of these people that are that political, they don't have any sense. They're like single-celled amoeba. And so any negative input that goes against their little group, Democrat, or MAGA, it's like, oh god, it's like those people cannot be helped, folks. Like they're I don't really think there's a lot of reasoning for them, because it's never existed in their life for them to be like that. Sad sort of existence. But I do think you really support Truck and Chef because it helps us to be able to be on air and to be able to criticize everyone fairly from all ends, which we have done for the whole time we've been running, and we will still be doing years into the future. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to AF Kaplan. He said, do you think the U.S. will back up their warnings with action if Russia directly attacks NATO?
That I'm not entirely sure about, AF Kaplan. It's up in the air. Like, the fact that they went to Russia shows they might, but still the president's in charge, and he could change his mind quite literally on the day that the war started, and then we might not be involved. So it's hard to say, because the president's so unpredictable, it's impossible to really know what he would do. But I would hope that we would be involved because that would put NATO in the best stance possible. And so a big thanks to you once again. And with that, we're on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Ashen Lion, who said, are there any concerning movements from Belarus recently near the NATO border, or is it just Russia?
Generally it's just the Russians. We know that NATO conducted a supposed exercise around Kaliningrad as of late, which is more so a reconnaissance gathering op from what we can tell. But we haven't really seen a lot of alerting or concerning movements that have been publicly mentioned by NATO, although we know that they're not mentioning some because they stated that they were conducting a military exercise in Poland and that there were ground forces involved, and we had absolutely no forewarning that ground forces were involved and didn't even know that they were involved until I believe it was about 72 hours into the quote-unquote exercise that they were conducting. So there's probably forces moving around in NATO. It's just that the information is being suppressed where we do not know about it and we're not able to report on it. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is going to be Space Fraggle, who said one miscalculation by either side, and this can go real bad real quick. And what say you?
Yeah, I would agree. That's unfortunately kind of the situation we're in. These sorts of instances here are usually risky enough that one wrong move can descend into total war, much like the Cuban Missile Crisis, and much like the times of 1985 and 1983 when the Soviet Union thought we were about to attack them. So there is generally quite a great deal of risk here right now, and I think everyone's trying to figure out where the situation lies here in the West as to what they can do and cannot do without crossing that line. But I would say that they're doing way too little, and they're largely enticing the Russians at this point by our current representation of weakness is the best way to put it. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I got to thank you all greatly for having been here once again tonight. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure for us to be able to run the stream for all of y'all tonight. We've had a peak viewership of 22,000 people, and 122,000 people have watched the stream before it ended. That is one humdinger of a live stream, folks, and we thank you all so much once again for being here and enjoying this show, and we also thank everybody for going out of their way to support this show, because you've made it possible once again for everyone to be here tonight and to watch as we run the show, because we can still pay our bills and keep the food in our mouths. And so with that, we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world. And if there is a short war video to be made, Enforcer Matt will be the one making that short war video. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, Haram Slava, long live the Least Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, a huge shout out to the over 122,000 people that joined us by the end of the stream tonight. Truly a full house, I could say. And we do hope to see you all tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern on the next Nightly Warning stream at 10 p.m. Eastern, and to cover the rest of the news throughout the next 24 hours. And once again, a huge shout out to everybody for joining us once again. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, get some rest, and good night.